to spend some time with us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If you wouldn't mind, liking is loving, tapping is clapping, sharing is caring. Also, don't forget, join our team. If you do that every day, it really helps with the algorithm because as you know, for some reason, we get our daily restrictions. We'll probably get them again today. So your engagement is key. Also, a whole bunch of brand new merch in the merch store. So thank you, Sam. It's been, by the way, it's been reorganized. There's no King stuff in there. There's Women Don't Owe You Shit shirts. We've got others. We've got V-necks now with more to come. So please head on over there. You can find that at factsstillmatter.site or the Facts HQ, which is, you'll find that link in the link tree in my bio. Please consider joining our Discord. It's an amazing community. You can find the link to that as well in my bio, or just reach out to one of our moderators and they can help you out. We are crowdfunded here. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so at Factsstillmatter. All of my various appetizers live there. What else? I think that's the list. That's a lot. So thank you. Oh yeah, the ever popular I Am Fucking Zen shirt is available also in the merch store. So thank you guys. Tapping. Just a couple little things I want to get into. We're going to talk a lot today about the Voting Rights Act because of Supreme Court met yesterday to discuss this because of aggrieved white people in Louisiana thinking that they've been discriminated against. I know, hilarious, right? We're also gonna talk about that the Pentagon attempting to manipulate the press. I don't know how else to describe it other than that. Oh, and in case you were wondering, the Trump administration is considering lobbing missiles into California on Saturday for whatever fucking reason. But that's where we are. I want to give you a couple updates on a couple things that are literally close to home. Last night, and I had forgotten all about this, last night I got a phone call to participate in a town hall that was set up by my Congresswoman, Becca Balint. Becca's a former teacher. I've been in events with her. She's great. I really like her. I've challenged her on things, which is great. Her office knows me by name. That's how many times I've connected. So I called in, you wait in the queue, and she was discussing the MAGA Republican government shutdown and how the damage caused by the increase in the ACA subsidies and how we're making cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I kind of chose to take it in a different direction. I said, I understand. First of all, thank you for taking my call. Appreciate you signing the Epstein Transparency Act, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A few years ago, there was conversations with elected members of Congress that represent New England states. It was beyond just New England. I think New York was included, maybe Pennsylvania, about creating their own healthcare compact, basically where the Northeast states would gather together and create a healthcare system for people who lived in those states. And there was a lot of activity about it, and I haven't heard anything about it. So I pressed her on that. I said, listen, we know the MAGA Republicans need to make sure that those subsidies go away, and they need those cuts to Medicaid and Medicare so that they can pay for their tax cuts. Otherwise, they can't pay for their tax cuts. And I asked her, I said, Congresswoman, this issue is bigger than just the ACA subsidies. The issue is the entire healthcare system, and we need solutions because politicians are using people's healthcare as a political football. And that is true. And she was receptive to that. I mean, she was being political on the phone. She couldn't exactly engage in front of everybody. So we had a different little sidebar conversation, and she thanked me, and then they put me back down in the queue. And then her aide asked me a question. She said, would you be interested in joining a roundtable at some point with a congressperson? And before she could even spit that out, I'm like, yes. So we'll see what happens. That apparently is going to be sometimes after Thanksgiving. My point is, let me back up a second. I feel fortunate that I have access to my federal representatives. Bernie's here a lot. I've had conversations with him many times, his office, also Peter Welch, Becca Balint. I feel fortunate that I have that. I know many of you may not have that level of access, but that would be an example of doing something. Like you're just asking questions, probing questions, and not accepting the standard canned answers. So I hope that there's more momentum on something like this because we have to solve for this permanently. It can't just be about ACA subsidies. It can't just be about Medicaid cuts. We have a broken fucking healthcare system, a broken healthcare system that we have to fix. And if we do it in small bites here, if we organize regionally, if we say, if you live in these states, here's the plan. They're all bandied together, whatever that would look like. But anyway, so that was my evening last night. And then there's a follow-up to the young Republicans, absolute fucking bombshell reporting about how a massive group of young Republicans between the ages of 18 and 40 as reported on by Politico, as you guys know, sharing just horrible and disgusting messages via text in New York and Kansas and Arizona and also in Vermont. So there was a follow-up. By the way, I also contacted Senator Douglas's office numerous times yesterday. The voicemail was full. I kept trying, never got through. So I don't know if that was an indication of just the feedback, so to speak. But here's a follow-up to that story. This is reported on by our local CBS affiliate up here. It's WCAX, and here's the follow-up to that story. Here, I'll play the sound for you first, and we can talk about it a little bit more because his wife's almost worse. But I'll just let the commercial play. Everybody keep tapping and sharing, please. I know JD Vance is infantilizing them. We'll talk about that in a second because I'm glad you brought that up. Hang on one second. Gotta love Vermont commercials. Come to Vermont. You'll love our wood. Don't do it, Jess. Don't do it. Okay, here we go.
Breaking news tonight, Senator Samuel Douglas responds to controversy over his involvement in a racist group chat with other young Republicans. Thank you for joining us at 6. I'm Darren Perrin.
And I'm Kat Villianzoni. Channel 3's Ike Ben-David is in the newsroom right now with what Douglas and his fellow Republicans are saying tonight. Ike.
Kat and Darren, in his statement, Senator Douglas tells Channel 3 that he condemns the comments in the chat. He says that he often went days.
He condemns them. Cool. You participated.
Days without checking it and was unaware of some of the conversations.
Senator Samuel Douglas says he should have been more careful and less naive about his associations with the young Republicans in the controversial group chat. But in the statement, he did not say he was stepping down, at least yet. According to Politico, Douglas allegedly made a comment about an Indian woman not bathing often. He says it was not a generalization,
right,
and doesn't represent his views or character. In a separate conversation,
right,
Douglas's wife, Brianna, a Vermont Young Republicans National Committee member, is alleged to have made a comment about Jewish people being dishonest. In a statement Wednesday afternoon, Senator Douglas said in part, quote, "I apologize so deeply to my constituents and colleagues that our county and state have been dragged into this. I am currently weighing all my options to ensure that the outcome of this is what's best for the safety and well-being of my family and constituency, and I will make another statement before the end of the week." Many lawmakers in Douglas's own party want him to resign. 7 Republican state representatives and senators from the Northeast Kingdom are calling for him to step down. Governor Phil Scott endorsed Douglas in last year's elections, but now urges him to resign, calling the comments in the group chat unacceptable.
We should reject any of what we saw in that article. We should reject it out of hand. No tolerance, zero tolerance for that.
Vermont GOP Chair Paul Dame says he removes Senator Douglas from his duties at the state party until the matter is resolved. We'll keep you closely updated about the controversy and Senator Douglas's response, so stick with Channel 3. Kat.
We don't fuck around up here. Seriously. I mean, people within his own party, like the Vermont Republican Party just is the minority here. So you've got the Progressive Party that's got a very strong voice, literally the Progressive Party, very strong voice in our body politic here. So typically speaking, Vermonters elect conservative Republicans to be governor, but we always send Democrats and or independents to DC. So it's a very interesting model, but the MAGA group has grown, not numbers necessarily, but in volume. And where this gentleman represents, Senator Douglas, he represents a town called Orleans. And if you know Vermont, it is the Northeast Kingdom. That is MAGA country. So we shouldn't be surprised by that. But what I find interesting is that members of his own party, without delay, are like, dude, you should fucking resign. Absolutely. Now, they can say that because they don't have the majority in the state house. So it's not like it's not like they're going to be giving up power by losing that seat. So, anyway, it's good to see. I will continue to track this story for you. Just let me just read some of the detail. Vermont Senator Sam Douglas broke his silence on a racist group chat controversy, apologizing for his involvement, but stopping short of committing to resign despite mounting pressure from fellow Republicans. What is left for you if you can't resign, Senator Douglas? You'll be getting a phone call, if not a knock on the door today. Politico reported on the controversy Tuesday involving Orleans County Senator taking part in the group chat with other young Republicans on the messaging app Telegraph. Or Telegram, I think, right? According to Politico, Douglas allegedly made a comment about an Indian woman not bathing often. He says it was not a generalization and doesn't represent his views or character. In a separate conversation, his wife, Brianna, a Vermont Young Republican National Committee member, is alleged to have made a comment about Jewish people being dishonest. In a statement, Douglas said, "I apologize deeply to my constituents and colleagues that our county and state have been dragged into this." You dragged your constituents into this. Hey, thank you, Switchy Raiders. Hearts in the chat for Switchy Raiders. You dragged your constituents into this, you racist fuck. You did this. You and your wife. Team fucking racist. You're the ones that dragged your constituents into this. You're only coming out now because you got fucking busted, you piece of shit. I'm currently weighing all my options to ensure that the outcome of this is what's best for the safety and well-being of my family and my constituency, and I will make another statement before the end of the week. Many lawmakers in his own party want him to resign. So we'll see, right? We will see. So this, in case you're just tuning in, there was this massive story released by Politico where members of the Young Republicans of America, or these groups, aged 18 to 40, were caught on this group chat saying horrible things. In some cases saying, "I love Schmittler," racist, homophobic, anti-Semitic, you name it. Now, I want to remind people that that is the bench. That is the next generation of Republicans, leaders, members of Congress, state houses, school boards, etc. Okay? Those people are the people, when we discuss people that are being red-pilled, those are the people we're talking about. Where do you think they get? In fact, some of the things in the group chat that we went through yesterday were basically Charlie Kirk's words just coming from somebody else. So we can't sit here anymore and say that the Republican Party is not fueled by hate and division, because it is. And we have to stop normalizing it. So what do I mean by that? I know you guys don't accept hate. The question is, once we get through this era, and we will, whatever it looks like on the other side, we will come out of this. I just don't know what it's going to look like yet. Are we going to have the same tolerance for things in the past that we may have ignored? Are we going to, I don't know. Are we going to accept locker room talk? Are we going to participate in off-color jokes? Are we going to continue to just turn a blind eye to when we see social and racial injustice? That's my concern. So because when it becomes normalized, there's no going back from that. It cannot be part of our day-to-day. It just can't be. That's why we have to lean in harder. So empaths, you really got to lace up the boots. People who have compassion and care and just concern for everyone, but for marginalized communities in particular. Because we're going to discuss the Voting Rights Act. And we're going to talk about first of all, the history of it, why we had to have it, and what Stephen Miller in particular is doing to gut it. So again, as in an effort to do something, as we talk about on the daily, the doing something can't just be today and tomorrow. It's got to be in the future. How are you shaping, what are you doing to help shape an America that you could, I'm not going to say be proud of, but at least not be embarrassed by at this point? So I'll follow that story for you guys. I'll keep you posted as to what we can expect. So more from Vermonters. So this was Bernie recently with Caitlin Collins. Bernie being Bernie. And I just want to remind people of a few things. Again, I feel fortunate to be represented by Bernie. That man has not changed a bit. He has been talking about the same things going back 40 years. I volunteered on his campaign when he was the mayor of Burlington, before he even became a member of Congress. Right, and I remember that. I also worked on one of his campaigns when he ran for the Senate the first time. So I've been engaged in him, and his script has not changed. It's always been about unions. It's always been about the middle class. It's always been going after money in politics. It's always been after going after the oligarchs, There can be no more oligarchs. There's too many. There's too many letters in the word oligarch. It takes me too long to say the word oligarch, but I'll say it a lot. I might see him this weekend, actually, because he could be, in theory, out on, I'm sure he will be, out on the road. But he's been consistent. And like, love him or hate him, I mean, most people idolize him, but it's more about what he stands for. But it's never changed. It's always been the same. So he's talking about this government shutdown and what it means to all of us.
Telling me you're willing to vote no every time Leader Thind
Damn right. I am not going to allow. Let me be clear. All right, you can quote me on this. You can quote me on this. We say in Vermont, till the cows come home. I will not let tens of thousands of fellow Americans die because they're thrown off of healthcare. In my state, people cannot afford a doubling in the healthcare premiums. We are already paying the highest prices in the country for healthcare. People just can't afford it.
Day 3 of the Democrat-led government shutdown. The Democrats continue to recklessly hold the American people hostage over their demands to give illegal aliens free health care. Republicans are fully unified behind passing nonpartisan clean funding bill, the exact same bill that Democrats approved back in March to reopen the federal government. But those same Senate Democrats are now voting against this clean funding bill and keeping the people's government closed.
So are you telling me you're willing to vote no every time Leader Thind
Damn right. I am not going to allow. Let me be clear. All right, you can quote me on this.
So I don't know what to say. I'm impressed by Bernie's consistency, and I think that's the most important thing. Hang on a second. I got to do something. And you all should be too, right? That's the kind of messaging you want. And he gets fired up. You don't want to piss off Bernie, right? I mean, I want to back up just a second, and I just want to remind people again what's at stake here. So the government is shut down. The MAGA Republican government shutdown, and I'll give you some news on a federal judge stepping in saying that these terminations, the reduction in force, these layoffs have been deemed illegal. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But the MAGA Republican Donald Trump government shutdown is to pay for their tax cuts. They don't want the ACA subsidies extended. They don't want money put back into the Medicaid, Medicare system. They don't want that. So they're gonna come up with all kinds of bullshit to try to say, oh yeah, we'll negotiate. No, you won't. So the only leverage the Democrats in Congress have right now is what they're doing, right? That's it. And as we've discussed numerous times, and I want to say this again, this specifically as it relates to the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, 56% of ACA enrollees are represented by Republicans in Congress. 56%. 78% of ACA enrollees are in states that Donald Trump won in 2024. I'll say that again. 56% of ACA enrollees are represented by Republicans in Congress, and 78% are in states that voted for Donald Trump in 2024. We know who this is going to affect more than anybody else. And here's the scenario, okay? Because of EMTALA that was signed under the Reagan administration that guarantees that you can't be denied emergency care in a hospital if something happens to you, whether or not you have insurance or not, you cannot be denied, okay? So EMTALA exists because of Ronald Reagan, MAGA. I don't know if you knew that, but because of that. Anyway, here's a scenario for you. An undocumented immigrant bust in their ass to provide for their family. They're out in the fields picking fruit, or they're working on a construction site, or whatever that might be, whatever they're doing. And this person could be up on a ladder, hanging sheetrock, and they fall and they break their arm. That person then goes to the ER, right? That person goes to the ER and they get treated because of emergency care only, not proactive care, not a routine physical. It's emergency care only. Hospitals can then be reimbursed for that treatment under EMTALA. That accounts to less than 1% of all Medicaid, Medicare spending. People in our country are cheering that on, or saying that's a reason that we should not. That's part of the deal because undocumenteds or illegals are getting health care. Meanwhile, everybody else who's in the healthcare system, because the subsidies will disappear, because of cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, because of rural hospitals closing, and private insurance, employer-funded insurance, it's all going to go up. Americans will see increases of 110, 120, 300%, depending on where you live. That is next level fucking stupid. That is next level stupid. If you think about that scenario. So what would be the option, conservative Christians? That same person who's building your home or fixing your garage, who's been hired to, or is being paid under the table illegally, that's a different conversation, but is picking your fruit that you can have in your fruit cocktail. What would you prefer? That they just don't be treated? If they break their arm? If they break their leg, or if they cut their hand open? What would you prefer? Would you prefer that they just not be treated? 0.05% of spending through our healthcare system goes to support the scenario that I just described to you. It is against the law. The bylaws of the ACA make it very clear. You are either a U.S. citizen or have lawful legal status. That's it. That's it. Same thing with Medicaid, Medicare. You don't go to the hospital. It has to be emergencies. And the physicians, the people that treat you, make that determination. I'll give you the deal. This is how it works. Hold on a second. It's in EMTALA. The Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act from 1986. It's called EMTALA. Was signed into law by President Reagan on April 7th, 1986 as part of the Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, or COBRA. It took effect on August 1st, 1986. Under EMTALA, any hospital that accepts Medicare, which is nearly all hospitals in the U.S., until this round of budgeting, which is cutting funding, right? Which means these rural hospitals will close. Under EMTALA, any hospital that accepts Medicare must provide a medical screening examination to anyone who comes to the emergency department to determine if an emergency medical condition exists. That's one. Stabilize the patient if an emergency condition is found, regardless of insurance status, immigration status, or ability to pay. 3, restrict transfers. Patients with emergency conditions can only be transferred or discharged once stabilized, or if the patient requests transfer and the benefits outweigh the risks. Hospitals and physicians that violate EMTALA can be fined. They can also be excluded from Medicare and Medicaid programs. Patients and other hospitals can file civil lawsuits for damage resulting from an EMTALA violation. So I wish people could just spend a little bit of time trying to understand that. Emergency medical treatment only. In fact, that's what it's called. The Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act. It's emergency conditions only. Emergency. So again, conservative Christians, pro-life Christians, in the scenario that I just described, an undocumented immigrant gets in a car accident, not their fault. They get sideswiped. They're hurt really bad. Cut in their forehead. Obviously, it's an emergency situation. Elbow, arm broken, whatever that might be. What would you suggest? What would you suggest for that individual? What would you suggest? Would you suggest that they don't get treated? I frame it that way because that seems what's happened when we start normalizing hate. What would you suggest? It's just basic human decency. Now, if you're so concerned about waste, fraud, and abuse, when we're talking about 0.05% of Medicaid, Medicare dollars to go to support what I just described, explain to me why we are now sending $40 billion to Argentina. I would just like somebody to explain it. $40 billion. The president recently said that he was going to fund the ballroom himself. I'm going to be one donor, just me. Now he's inviting the richest of the rich, like $1 million a seat, to raise money to build a fucking ballroom. Do we need a ballroom? Do we? Is that what we need? Should that be the priority? A fucking ballroom? And there's this little nugget. I don't know if you guys heard this yet. Let's see if I can find it. I'm a little disorganized this morning. My apologies. And I've got some crazy fucking sounds. I don't don't know, Gretchen Whitmer posted a phone call, a voicemail that she got from one of her, somebody who lives in their district, apparently. Then there's this. So I'm going to show this. I'm going to play the sound, and then I'm going to show you this picture because this is what they're referring to.
What is this, Mr. What is this, Mr. President?
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you all.
He's asking, what is this?
For who?
Thanks, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, no, I know where it is, but who's it for?
Thank you, guys.
He says it's for me. The Arc de Trump. This. In DC. Who's it for? He said me. Who's it for? It's for me. The Arc de Trump. MAGA conservative Christians, pro-lifers, non-voters, apathetic leftists who decided that they couldn't participate. This is on you right here. This is on you. This is on you. Hear it again. I'll play it again for you so you can hear the sound, so you can't accuse me of making it up. This is exactly what they're talking about. The Arc de Trump.
What is this, Mr. What is this, Mr. President?
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you all. You come this way. Thank you.
For who?
Thanks, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, no, I know where it is, but who's it for?
Thank you, guys.
Me.
The Arc de Trump?
Thank you.
What is it?
Everybody okay with that? You guys okay with that? You okay with your taxpayer dollars? Because that's what it'll be used for. Are you okay with that? And the problem that we face now is that because he has primed his base so much to be able to accept anything he does, he will sell this as the glorification of the savior or the glorification of Trumpism so that we can remember it forever. These same people want his face on Mount Rushmore. Children are starving in our country. Single parents, single moms in particular, are doing the best they fucking can to feed their kids. 40 million people are on SNAP programs, which means they're food insecure. Pro-life conservative Christians want to cut funding for school lunches and school breakfasts, kicking people off of their health care. Again, 56% of the people enrolled in the ACA, represented by Republicans in Congress. 78% of enrollees in the ACA are in states that Donald Trump won in 2024. The MAGA Republican shutdown, the Donald Trump MAGA Republican government shutdown that is costing people their jobs, that is costing people their livelihood, in many cases, people not getting paid, is because they need to pay for their tax cuts, period. They need to pay for their tax cuts. The money that they're taking from Medicaid, Medicare, don't forget, we went through this. I think it's the Commerce Department. Don't quote me on that. Could be the Commerce Department who's got I forget who controls the Medicaid, Medicare budget. But they were asked to cut like $1 trillion from that particular budget, of which like $900 billion goes to support, Medicaid, Medicare. Obviously, that's where the cuts are going to come from. Then you add SNAP, then you add the ACA subsidies. They need all that money to pay for the tax cut. The tax cuts, by the way, going to some of the same people in the healthcare industry that are price gouging American taxpayers. We went through this exercise earlier this week. If you remember, we talked about this. Inside of 3 years, the healthcare industry will be a $7 trillion industry in our nation. $2.5 trillion will be profit. $2.5 trillion will be profit. And we're giving those people, pharmaceutical, biotech, medical device, all those industries are making billions, now trillions of dollars on the backs of American taxpayers, and we still don't have everybody insured. And now MAGA Republicans, the pro-life conservative Christians in the world, want to make it even harder for Americans. I don't know how the fuck I'm going to pay my insurance. I have no fucking idea. I have no idea. As a business owner, it's going to be my business taxes, my mortgage, or my health care. It's every month I'm going to be like, Okay, who's getting what this month? And that is the impact of this shit to pay for tax cuts for the rich. They want to give tax cuts to the richest, the people that are ripping all of us off every fucking day. Every day. Is that America first? But we're cool giving $40 billion to Argentina? Would somebody like to explain that to me? And this is the ultimate hypocrisy. I mean, this is the ultimate conservative hypocrisy, MAGA Republican hypocrisy. For years, all you complained about was spending overseas. You didn't want to spend money for USAID programs, to feed children, to use the American excellence to feed kids around the world, to help communities that are ravaged by HIV and AIDS, to help communities that are dealing with drought and devastation from American, exceptionalism and or expansion and or destabilization, or just because we decided to be humane as a country. You guys couldn't give a fuck about that. But cheering on $40 billion to Argentina, what the fuck for? Cheering on the Arc de Trump, what the fuck for? Remember the lies that the president told about the ballroom? Said he's going to be the one donor? He's going to be the guy that's going to write the check? Then why is he selling access to that to raise money? Want to make it make sense? Can somebody make that make sense? $40 billion to Argentina. For what? Let's see what the president has to say about that as to why we're giving $40 billion to Argentina. Because I still don't know. Hold on a second. Everybody keep tapping, please. Here we go. Don't forget, friends, we're crowdfunded here. You want to support the channel, best way to do so is through Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. They're all at Factsstillmatter. So thank you. Here we go. This is the president talking about this. Like, what the fuck are we doing? What the fuck are we doing?
This Argentina rescue package America first? And is this rescue package meant to help President Milei's party in the coming election?
No, it's really meant to help a good financial philosophy where Argentina can, after 20 years of disaster, because it was very successful at one point, and it can be again.
Okay, so Scott, what do you think of that?
This is a farmer, soybean farmer.
Well, I think you've got a bigger problem. I think somebody needs to ask Argentina what they did with the $18 billion that China gave them in 2009 that they...
Great question. So we bail out Argentina, we give them more money. Argentina then turns around and buys their soybeans from China, fucking over American farmers. Does that sound like America first? The hypocrisy from the right, when you wrap it all up in their hatred, their misogyny, their love of the patriarchy, their discrimination, their bigotry, their anti-human rights, and now this, and now their own health care is going to get gutted. They've been told a lie, and now their boy allocating 40, I'm not even sure where they're getting the money from, but it's $40 billion now, as we think the number is. $40 billion to Argentina, who raw-dogged American farmers. Somebody want to explain it? You can't. That's the problem. You can't explain it. I have some more sound on that particular issue because I think something he said really stood out to me when asked the same question. Let me see if I can find it. Everybody, please keep tapping. Tapping is clapping. Liking is loving. Sharing is caring. Where is it? And then I've got some just other shit to play today that's just disturbing to me. But that's why we're here, friends, to call this shit out. I think I have it someplace. Yeah, here we go. And just listen to what he says. Just ask the question about whether or not it's going to help us. Okay, here you go.
What's the benefit for United States in helping this way Argentina?
So he asked the question, what's the benefit for the United States? Again, Again, America first, right? What's the benefit for us to do this?
For Argentina, what's the benefit for United States in helping this way Argentina?
Just helping a great philosophy take over a great country. Argentina is one of the most beautiful countries that I've ever seen. And we want to see it succeed. It's very simple. I mean, we don't have to do it. It's not going to make a big difference for our country.
What was that, sir? It's not going to make a big difference for our country, but America first. So fuck it. We're going to do it anyway.
But it will in terms of South America. If Argentina does well, you're going to have others following.
For Argentina, what's the benefit?
MAGA? Somebody want to explain that? Somebody want to explain, your America First movement that's rooted in Triple K history? You want to explain that? How that works? How does that work? How does the president, who you say is all about America First, how does he tell you, doesn't really matter, it's not going to help us, we're just going to do it anyway? $40 billion, while active duty military aren't getting paid, while you, MAGA, are going to feel the hits to the healthcare cost increases more than anybody because that's the states. Because again, you live in recipient states. You live in states that are funded by blue states. You all should be, instead of criticizing California, you should be on your fucking knees praising Gavin Newsom in California for basically paying your bills for you. You all should pull yourselves up by the bootstraps a little bit more and start paying your fair share. Stop taking all these government subsidies and all these handouts. What's wrong with you? You might as well just accept the fact that liberals work harder than you do. $40 billion. Why the fuck are we giving $40 billion to Argentina? Why? Why are we doing that? So you want to explain it? You can't, can you? What would your spin be? I know. Well, Biden did this. That's all you got. Okay. That's all you got left. You guys are comfortable with $40 billion being spent on a country that we have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. It's a loan, not a bailout. Should we be doing it anyway? Is this the America First Bank and Trust? Somebody want to justify that? Excuse me. That's the concern, right? That's the concern that we should all have. If the argument is we shouldn't be spending as much money as we are on other countries, then we should start with Israel, in my opinion, because that does not look like things are going to work out very well there. Don't forget, the president went on record saying 3,000 years it took us to get to this point, and it will hold. Well, we'll see. I hope it does. I really hope it does. And for the right to say that the left does not want this war to end, we absolutely do. But we want it to end for different reasons. We want it to end because we're tired. We're tired of innocent civilians, Palestinian civilians, being unalived on the daily at the hands of the IDF and the Israeli military and the war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu. That's what we care about. You've been lied to. You support universal health care in Israel. You support on-demand ABs in Israel. You probably didn't know that, did you? No, you didn't. So, speaking of the ballroom, again, and just how above board and transparent our government is. Trump hosts tech companies and business titans as he raises money for a ballroom. President Trump hosted dozens of business titans yesterday as he seeks to raise hundreds of millions of dollars to add a ballroom to the White House. The guest list for the East Room dinner included representatives from almost 24 corporations, including tech firms like, you guessed it, Amazon, Apple, Meta, Google, Microsoft, Palantir, tobacco companies, Altria and Reynolds, American and telecom giants T-Mobile and Comcast, according to a list provided to CBS by the White House. Other notable guests included oil magnate Harold Hamm, sugar industrialist Pepe Fanjul, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers owner Edward and Sherry Glazer. The cryptocurrency industry, which the Trump administration has sought closer ties to, shocker, was well represented at the event as well, including Coinbase, Ripple, Tether, and the Winklevoss twins from Facebook fame, who founded the Gemini cryptocurrency exchange. It's not clear how many of Wednesday's roughly 128 attendees have already opened their wallets for the $200 million ballroom project, but Mr. Trump thanked the people in the room for giving tremendous amounts of money. He said the cost has been fully taken care of. So many of you have been really, really generous. A couple of you are sitting here saying, sir, would $25 million be appropriate? President said, I'll take it. What's my point, George? Are you literally asking me what's my point? We have people in our country that are starving. There are kids, there are families, the estimate's around 40 million families live under the conditions what's referred to as food insecurity. Parents sacrificing their own meals so their kids could eat. And Donald Trump is hosting tech giants and the billionaires so that they can fund a ballroom? Who the fuck needs a ballroom? I'd like you to hear what Caroline has to say about this, because it's fucking, the spin is wild. Here you go.
I do have one other announcement from the White House and from the president. We are proud to announce that the construction of the new White House ballroom will begin. For 150 years, presidents, administrations, and White House staff have longed for a large event space.
Really? Have you heard anybody ever talk about this? Anybody? Have you ever heard any president talk about, you know what? We need a ballroom. MAGA, that's why you all wear really tight, tighty whities, because you don't need any fucking ballroom. I was going to do the rim shot. I missed it.
On the White House complex that can hold substantially more guests than currently allowed. President Trump has expressed his commitment to solving this problem on behalf of future administrations and the American people. The White House.
On the American people? Have any of you in here, even MAGA, have any of you in here ever said, you know what we need? Listen, I can't pay my bills. I can't afford my mortgage. My kids' school, I have to help my kids' teachers out every single day because they can't afford things. They're underpaid. Infrastructure is crumbling. We have a health insurance system that's broken. But you know what we need? We need a ballroom. We need a ballroom at the White House. Yeah, because that is America first.
House is one of the most beautiful and historic buildings in the world. Yet the White House is currently unable to host major functions, honoring world leaders in other countries without.
Has anybody ever complained about that? You think a president from a nation that's invited, or a prime minister that's invited to the White House gives a fuck if we have a ballroom? Okay.
Having to install a large and unsightly tent approximately 100 yards away from the.
Oh my God, 100 yards away, an unsightly tent. Well, maybe you should have a better decorator, Triple K.
Main building's entrance. The White House State Ballroom will be a much needed and exquisite addition of approximately.
Much needed? Who needs it? Who needs it? Who needs it? Do you need it? MAGA, do you need the ballroom? I don't need it. Anybody in here need it? Nope.
90,000 total square feet of innately designed and carefully crafted space with a seated capacity of 6.
Oop. Hold on. What happened to Triple K? Here we go. Sorry, it jumped to an ad. Damn you. Give me a second here.
Seated capacity in the East Room of the White House. In recent weeks, President Trump has held several meetings with members of the White House staff, the National Park Service, the White House Military Office, and the United States Secret Service to discuss design features and planning. President Trump.
Who fucking cares? You see, and this is part of the messaging, right? It's effective. What conservatives in the MAGA world have done is they take the glorification of things, right? They think that the gold embossed Oval Office, which looks like a cheap ass fucking hotel in Reno, on a good day, they think that shows strength and excellence and power. The same people that can't afford their bills think gold embossed fucking sconces is the epitome of success. And then to double down on that, you now want Arc de Triomphe. Who are you building that for? Me. And a ballroom. What the fuck for? Why do we need that shit? Okay.
Has chosen McCreary Architects as the lead architect, which is well known for their classical architectural design and based right here in our nation's capital.
Okay.
The construction team will be headed by Clark Construction, and the engineering team will be led by AECOM. The project will begin in September 2025, and it is expected to be completed long before the end of President Trump's term. President Trump and other donors have generously committed to donating the funds necessary to build this project.
I didn't hear President Trump talk about how much money he's giving at all. I just heard about other people giving money. People like Amazon, Apple, Meta, Google, Microsoft, Palantir, Altria, Reynolds American, T-Mobile, Comcast, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Approximately $200 million structure. The United States Secret Service will provide the necessary security enhancements and modifications.
Cool. So the Secret Service, whose job is it to protect our elected officials, they're going to spend some time, guarding the dirt piles? They're going to spend some time, making sure that nobody steals the shovels? Okay.
The White House ballroom will be substantially separated from the main building of the White House, but at the same time, its theme and architectural heritage will be almost...
The Chevy Equinox.
God damn it.
Is more.
Hate the commercials. Chevy, fuck you. You're probably on the list. Sorry.
Identical. The site of the new ballroom will be where the small, heavily changed and reconstructed East Wing currently sits.
Who cares?
East Wing was constructed in 1902.
Who cares?
And has been renovated and changed many times, with a second story added in 1940.
Who gives a shit?
White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles has provided the following statement. President Trump is a builder at heart and has an extraordinary eye for detail. The President and the Trump White House are fully committed to working with the appropriate organizations to preserve the special history of the White House while building a beautiful ballroom that can be enjoyed by future administrations and generations of Americans to come.
We don't get to go to the fucking ballroom, Caroline. Who the fuck is it for? I'll keep it. I just want you to keep this in mind, MAGA, is that these contracts that she mentioned, I guarantee you they are in the orbit of the administration, and they're probably going to get a pretty sweet deal. Now, if you wanted to say, for example, if you wanted to use, round up a bunch of your donors and say, oh, I don't know, build a new hospital that specializes in treatment for kids with cancer, then sign me the fuck up. Sign me the fuck up for that. Absolutely. Or you know what? We're going to make an investment. We're going to invest again, they're talking $200 million. Hey, teachers, how much would $200 million spread across all of you? Would that be a good investment? Would that be a good investment? Probably, right? Probably. I'm just saying. Where you want to spend your money? Chronicula, how are you this morning?
Good, thank you, sir. Good morning to you. I'm thinking he's going to take a page right out of Vladimir Putin's book, since that's his little buddy, and I bet there will be several surveillance tactics installed in this building.
Of course. Just
like when he had that Kislyak, that big tubby Kislyak guy in the Oval Office with that big bag of stuff, and he was probably spying on Biden the whole time Biden was in office.
Well, yeah, I'm sure, most likely. Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
And I just like to, before I go, I really like to hammer home the company they keep, because, back in the first term when they had that stupid photo op, like which one? When all the religious advisors came and put their hand on him. Man, one of those guys, isn't that some shit? One of those guys just got perp walked out by the county sheriff after pleading guilty to little boy diddling. So
I know, Robert Morris.
Who's protecting pedos? They're constantly saying right now, you liberal leftists, you demon rats, you're just protecting all the pedos. That's exactly what they're fucking doing. Like Tom Hartman always said, you want to know what the Republicans are up to? Look what they're blaming Democrats for. They are already balls deep in everything they are blaming others for. I hope you have a good day.
Calls always come from inside the house, Crown. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you. Real quick, let me thank Jody. Thank you so much. Savage, thank you so much. Heather, thank you guys for your support. Let me adjust this again, friends. We are crowdfunded. If you like what we do around here, thank you very much. You can find all the various appetizers at Factsstillmatter, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. So once again, right? What are we doing, MAGA? I'm going to ask you. What are you doing? Does this bother you at all? Does it bother you that we are building? Do you want a ballroom built? Now answer objectively, because you know that if the Biden administration came out with, we want to build a ballroom and we're going to have donors in, you would be losing your fucking mind. And you know what? Here's the difference between us and you. We would too. We'd be like, that's fucking bullshit. That's fucking bullshit. So here we are again saying that's fucking bullshit. Because don't forget, so many of you every single day complain about the cost of things as inflation's up again. By the way, inflation numbers are supposed to be out yesterday, but they're delayed. They're delayed because of the government shutdown. But we're anticipating that number to be closer to 3% because it was 2.9% from August, I should say. So there's that. So prices are going up for everything. Everything. We are losing jobs. Federal employees are being fired. Military is not getting paid. The MAGA government, the MAGA Republican Donald Trump government shutdown is costing people's lives. End of the day, people that live paycheck to paycheck have to survive this. And again, I want to thank you all for your generosity helping out a member of our community get their mortgage paid this week. So thank you all. You're amazingly, incredibly kind people. So are you okay with that? MAGA, are you guys okay with that? How can you possibly be okay? So don't sit up here and tell us that, well, waste, fraud, and abuse. Give me a fucking break. The Medicare system, this has been done through the CBO and through the General Accounting Office, determined that less than 5% fraud rate. Less than 5%. And the bulk of that fraud, and I get this from proletariat as well, the bulk of that fraud is on the administrative side, not on the recipient side, and some people in between, people ripping people off, but not the people who need it. Sure, there's going to be examples of people violating the system to try to take advantage of it. But the numbers are so ridiculously small. Meanwhile, the Pentagon hasn't passed an audit in 10 years. And the estimates are that their fraud rate could be above 25%. DHS, ICE, spending money on kicking the Coast Guard commandant out of their apartment or their house in D.C. so Kristi Noem could live there for free. You guys are fine with that? Tom Homan taking $50,000. I know people have got this in their head now, so I'll change it. Taking a $50,000 bag of cash, couldn't resist. And you guys are fine with that. And people are fucking starving. And women are bleeding out on hospital tables. And people are being targeted because of their skin color. And yes, that's what Tom Homan is doing. What the fuck are we doing? What the fuck are we doing? How can any of you who bitched and moaned forever about this shit be okay with it now? That's what I want to know. Lewis, how are you today?
Hey, how you doing, Fax? Hey,
I'm fine, thanks.
Great show, man. You're the man, I'm telling you. Hey,
thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
The thing what I want to say to you is this right here is that why are we questioning what they're doing giving Argentina $40 billion? They're doing the same thing that the mustache man regime did with Argentina back during those times. The bulk of those guys escaped to Argentina.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Okay, so they're stashing money. They're not loaning money. They're
that's
stashing
a really good point.
money. You follow them? So it's pretty obvious that's what's going on. And to your next point, do we need a ballroom?
Nope.
Do I need a root canal without Novocaine? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean,
exactly, man. Exactly. It's exactly right.
The last thing this country needs is to be loaning money and building ballrooms, holding parades, and marching troops through our streets. Nothing they are doing is normal.
You're right. You're right, Lewis. The only ballroom that I need are in my boxer briefs. I'm just
Exactly.
saying.
Right. And
thank you, bro.
Hey, so I appreciate it. I just wanted to come up and say that, and we can stop questioning. We can stop questioning whether or not why they're stashing that money, but they're stashing those countries. And if you look at where they're giving money to, it's the same country to where I'm just going to say it. The NAZI regime went to, minus the United States, because a lot of them came here too, and a lot of them went to the Vatican, believe it or not. But
correct.
So we can stop questioning why they're giving those specific countries those monies. Now, those are YT countries. People don't get that.
Yes,
a lot of those places where they're doing it, even most Brazilians, believe it or not, consider themselves YT.
Portuguese, yeah.
Absolutely. So my thing is that they're just preparing their escape routes because they're gone.
I appreciate you jumping in today, friend. That's a really good call out. I'm actually going to do a little bit more research into that. It's a really good reminder. But thanks for jumping in today, and I appreciate the support, brother. Have a good day. Be safe.
All right, Fags. Have a good day.
You too. Take care. It's really interesting. That's a really interesting take on that. I want to thank you from Nicole. Appreciate you very, very much, Nicole. You're very kind for your support. Again, we are in a position where we are cutting funding for colleges and universities who invest their money in research. Oh, I don't know, for childhood cancer, things like that. Demanding loyalty. Remember, we discussed this before. There was this compact of, I think it was 9 of some of the most well-respected universities across the country. And the Trump administration said, basically, you teach what we will tell you to teach. You can't have a curriculum that's based in CRT or DEI or whatever it might be. And unless you comply, we will cut your funding. MIT said, "Fuck you. We'll figure it out." Again, think about that funding that goes into research for infectious diseases and diseases like cancer and diabetes and heart disease. And again, MAGA. Last time I checked, when we see these pictures of you and your alphas, your diet's probably not the best. You probably don't take very good care of yourself. You probably don't touch the grass very often, which means you're going to be susceptible to a lot of these diseases, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, that a lot of the research grant the federal government spends at colleges and universities goes to help diagnose treatments for those diseases. You want that funding to be cut because you've been told it's about radicalization, indoctrination factories. You've been told that. But you're totally cool with giving $40 billion to Argentina, constructing a mausoleum, the Arc de Triomphe in D.C., having a $200 million or more ballroom built. Last time I checked, MAGA, infectious diseases, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, doesn't give a fuck who you voted for. And a reminder again, us progressives, our silver-haired liberals, fingernail painting human beings, we fucking care more about your future than you do. Your health care, your children's access to food and a high-quality education. We want to make sure that your communities are safe because the Republican budget defunded the police. Literally, community policing programs was cut from the federal budget. So the MAGA Republican government shutdown also had language that included defunding the police. So they don't want your society safe. And we learned recently that Pam Bondi wants the names of people who are registered gun owners. And she wants access to your registration information because that's what fascists do. You probably didn't know that. See, I've been telling you that forever. You just thought that the federal government was going to go after leftists. That's it. In an effort to own the libs. So what the administration is doing is putting you out front, saying, listen, yeah, we're all about owning the libs. You guys just keep echoing that sentiment. Meanwhile, they're in the back ripping you off, raw dogging you, lying to you, gutting your health care, getting your name from a registry so they can know exactly who the threats are. Because in fascism, they're concerned about an armed electorate. So how then would they address that? They'd need to get access to information. And they're doing so in a lawsuit. I forget what it's called. It's referred to as the second, I think I have it here. I pulled this up yesterday. It's like the Second Amendment, the Second Amendment freedom fighters or something like that. They're being sued. And here we are. So did you even know that? You probably didn't, did you? You probably didn't know that. So what have we learned just this morning, just in the 1 hour that we've been here? Everybody, again, we have a gifting goal today. Don't forget we are crowdfunded. And if you haven't yet joined our team, please do so. Tapping is always clapping. There's 1,600 people in here. Maybe we can hit 250K before the next, in 10 minutes. So we need 130,000 taps, likes, please. We all should question our government. That's all we've ever asked. I want people to be objective. Now, let me ask this. If the Biden administration, if Joe Biden stood in the Oval Office and said to you, we are building the Arc de Hunter, okay? An arch, I should say, in DC, an arch in DC dedicated to Hunter Biden. And we're building a ballroom. And we're giving $40 billion to Argentina. What would you say? Because I can guarantee you, the people who are in here every single day watching, I can guarantee you the people who vote for the left, people who vote for progress, Democrats, progressives, I can guarantee you every single one of them would be so fucking pissed. Would be so fucking pissed. We would be calling that out. And you would be too. So here we are again. Just flip the script. Now it's your boy. Now it's your American first guy. Now it's the guy that you said is going to put our country first. And he's doing exactly what I just described, except he's building an arch, the Arch de Trump, in honor of him. And where the fuck are you? Thank you, Sam. And where the fuck are you? Where are you? I gotta fix this. Hold on a second. Where are you? That's what I want to know. Why are you not calling it out? Why can you not call out what we call out? If you are so concerned, I'll do the meerkat. Let's do this one. If you are so concerned about waste, fraud, abuse, if you are so concerned that we're spending our money on things that we shouldn't be spending it on, then where the fuck are you? Why are you not calling it out? Okay. So if you guys did not vote for Trump, all right, most of you probably in here didn't. If you did not vote for Trump, even if you're not a Kamala supporter, but if you did not vote for Trump, if you're an independent or if you voted for Kamala, I would like you to put a 1 in the chat if you would have lost your fucking mind. The Biden administration is doing what the Trump administration is doing now, specifically as it relates to the ARC and to $40 billion to Argentina. You see what I mean? This is the hypocrisy. All we are asking for at this point, all we can ask for is just a bit of objectivity. That's it. Thank you for the meerkat. Thank you. Hello, Mr. Meerkat. That's it. Just a little objectivity. Why is that so difficult? Because, and Maddie said this yesterday, we're at a point where we need MAGA Republicans to push back against this shit so that we can get some of their people out of fucking office. For some of them to stand up and say, this is fucking nonsense. This is absolute fucking nonsense. Why the fuck? Farmers, you guys are getting fucked again by the Trump administration. Did you not learn your lesson the first time? Did you not learn? The exact same model is happening? Tariffs crippling your industry? Government bailout funded by taxpayers? You did it again. You voted for it again, and here we are. Now, the country, soybean farmers in particular, where are you guys? A lot of you voted for Trump. Where are you? Some of you have spoken up, but are you reminding members of your community? Are you going to town halls? Are you demanding answers from your elected officials? $40 billion to bail out Argentina? And then Argentina goes and buys their soybeans from China? Or sells their soybeans to China? Fucking over you again? Do you not understand? Once again, people on the left, we care more about your family farm than you do. We care more about the legacy of farming. We respect your hard work. We respect what you've done. We know that the farming community, we have a farmer in our family. We know how hard she works. We know the lack of dignity and respect that a lot of people who work in the farming industry in general get. But this is a situation that you brought on yourself. For what? Now, I hate to say it, but I will. You got to wipe that racism off the corner of your cheek. Give me another reason why you would have voted for him again, because you knew exactly what was going to happen. Did you really think he was looking out for you? Did you really think that? Did you really think he was looking out for you? Many of you have employed undocumented workers. Many of you. Large numbers of you have employed undocumented workers. And here you are, cheering on ICE? Rounding up people? Once again, liberals looking out for your way of life, wanting to preserve your way of life. Stop normalizing the hate. MAGA Republicans, you continue to be lied to every day. Now it's becoming a mockery. Now it's just becoming just one big thing after a fucking another. Just like we're just going to lie. Lie. And you guys are okay with it. Okay. Doing the best we can to try to remind you of that. Let me see here. All right. Back to let's just finish Caroline's statement on this.
In the White House, we will continue to provide the American public and all of you in the press with updates on this project at whitehouse.gov/visit. And if you go there shortly, you'll be able to see renderings and visuals of what this ballroom will look like, both the exterior and the interior. I have provided some photos for all of you in the.
I don't fucking care. I don't fucking care. So then when we get back to, again, don't forget what the initial claim was. I'll find it for you. This was something that the president had said. Hold on, I'll play this for you. This is just, here you go. You can listen to it for yourself.
Mr. President, can you talk about your plans for the new ballroom that was announced today? Yeah. And the $200 million, that's going to be paid for by yourself?
By me, yeah.
Private donations?
It's a private thing, yeah. I'll do it, and we'll probably have some donors or whatever, but.
I'll do it, and we'll probably have some donors. What's the over-under on how much of his own money he's going to use to build a ballroom? I think the over-under sits at 0, and I'm taking the under. He will make money on this.
It's about $200 million. So we've been planning it for a long time. They've wanted a ballroom at the White House for.
Who's wanted a ballroom? That's the question I keep asking. Who's wanted a fucking ballroom? Who wants a ballroom?
More than 150 years, but there's never been a president that was good at ballrooms. I'm really good. In fact, I looked at one that we just built into.
How are you good at ballrooms?
Turnberry in Scotland, and it's incredible. We're good at building. I'm good at building things, and we'll get it built quickly and on time. It'll be beautiful.
I'm good at building things, mama. I'm good. See Lego? I'm good at building things. Clap, clap.
Full top of the line. We've retained the best architects and engineers, everything else. It'll be built over on the east side, and it will be beautiful. It'll be views of the Washington Monument. It won't interfere with the current.
Nobody cares because none of us are going there anyway. Do you understand that? It's not like it's the fucking mall with the fucking arcade and the Orange Julius stand that we can just swing on by. It's the fucking White House, dude. And even though there are tours on occasion, friends, I would like to say, if you've never taken a tour of the White House or the Capitol, I would encourage you to do it. I really would. It's something that I think we should all see, because it's a sort of a solemn moment when you're in those halls. And I still wish it's something you could do. I don't want you to go now and see all the fucking gold embossed bullshit. But we don't give a fuck about the ballroom, dude. We don't fucking care.
Building, it'll be near it, but not touching it, and pays total respect to the existing building, which I'm the biggest fan of. It's my favorite place. I love.
No, you've criticized the White House numerous times, my guy. Numerous times.
But they've wanted it, and when they have big events, you entertain the president of China or the president of any place.
Who cares?
And you have big crowds. They've always had to get a tent, and you've probably been to some of them, Bobby. When it rains, it's a disaster. But I always said I was going to do something about the ballroom, because they should have one.
Why?
So we'll be leaving it. It'll be a great legacy project, and I think it'll be special. You saw some renderings of the initial.
Don't fucking care. Just don't care. Just don't give a shit. Don't fucking care. None of us, especially you true patriots, you alpha MAGA men, you guys should despise this. You don't want a ballroom, because who goes to balls? The elite, the rich, the deep state, the big pocketed donors. You don't want that. You'd rather have a hoedown. You'd rather have a barn built. I would too, quite frankly. Give me a fucking barn all day long. I don't need a fucking ballroom. I got enough ballroom. Sorry, that's not what I meant to say. We have enough ballrooms dedicated to people who laugh at us, who mock us. We need more healthcare. We need kids to be able to fucking eat. We need money for cancer research. We need affordable housing. We need better public transportation. We need safer communities. We need more access to mental health care. I don't need a fucking ballroom. None of us do. But that's fine. Nothing to see here. All right. We discussed the $40 billion that's going to Argentina, and then the question is why. U.S. Treasury has finalized a large rescue plan for Argentina. It includes direct U.S. purchases of Argentine pesos and a $20 billion currency swap. Again, money manipulation, with Argentina's central bank as immediate support. This is intended to stabilize the Argentine economy, especially ahead of important legislative midterm elections. Bessent framed the rescue as a quick move made by the U.S. to act more rapidly than other partners. Another $20 billion just added. Why? Why America first? Why are we America firsting taxpayer dollars to Argentina? Somebody want to explain that? This is why MAGA's shy. This is why they don't want to talk anymore. This is why they don't want to come up and have these conversations, because they know they can't defend it. Hey, Drew.
Hey, good morning, Steve. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. What's going on?
I just want to say about this ballroom thing and I know that there's plenty of other things that we need to be doing as well, but Democrats need to lead. There needs to be a bill put into place that we need to know full transparency on every single donor, how much they gave, what they got in return, even if it's just a little brick that says their name on it or something like that. Because we need to know. 6 months down the line, when all of a sudden we're doing favors for some of these large companies, or bailing them out, or putting them in, giving them government contracts, we need to know, hey, they gave money to this ballroom.
Sure.
We have to know. We have to, and in addition to that, they need to make sure that the guest list, anybody who ever steps foot in that ballroom, that is public information.
I would agree. I mean, obviously,
because he's going to use it like that porch. Yeah, like that porch in the back where he's just going to have his buddies come out, and who knows what kind of transactions are taking place, what's going on in there. We need to have full transparency, and if they don't want to give it to us, then there needs to be some method for us to stop this madness from happening.
I don't disagree. The problem is, sure, you can introduce legislation in the House, but it's never going to get a vote. It's never going to get to a committee. They're never going to support it. So I don't disagree with you. I think it needs to happen. I think it needs to happen. Yeah, I don't disagree.
At the very least, we need to, and again, it goes back to our messaging. At the very least, it needs to be put out there. They need to say, hey, I think it's a very fair thing to ask. I don't think we're asking for anything crazy here,
No.
But It's just, I mean, if it's true what they're saying, that they're not using taxpayer dollars, we need to know exactly where the money's coming from and what people are getting in return for it.
Agreed.
It's not unfair asking if it's shot down in the Senate, if it's shot down in the House of Representatives, then we need to at least have it on the record and say, look, we tried to do this. We tried to do this, and they're hiding this from us. Why? And ask yourself, why are they hiding this? And anybody who's rational, and unfortunately MAGA isn't, would agree.
It would never get I don't disagree. It would never come to a vote. That's the problem. There's no way Mike Johnson would ever let his members have to vote for something like that. I'm with you. I think it's, again, another reason why the midterms are so important. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But thank you as always, my buddy. I appreciate you. Have a good day. Be safe.
No problem, man. Enjoy the show.
See ya. Yeah, he's right. Sure. Again, transparency, right? Don't forget, Caroline Leavitt reminds us pretty much every day that this is the most transparent administration ever. Blech. So, I don't know. We'll see. Good morning, D. How are you today? Hello? D? D? I guess not. Again, this is just unacceptable. Hello, Jacob. How are you today?
Hey, man. I'm okay. Just at work. Quick question. Wanted your thoughts and opinions on all the nonsense with Dominion and what happened yesterday with the Supreme Court.
Yeah, in case many of you don't know, the Dominion voting machine company was bought by an individual, and I'll try to get the name. I was going to report on that story last week, who's got some loyalty connections to the administration. And Dominion is a voting machine, a tabulation company, as you know, that mail-in votes and others and tabulations are counted through Dominion machines. There's always been rumors about those being hacked by Elon Musk in the last election. So it's just another example of the things that we're dealing with, especially the party that claims election integrity, right? So there you go. And then the Supreme Court, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, the whole ruling regarding the Voting Rights Act. We'll get into that.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Jacob. I appreciate you. See you later. I'll unpack that story more because there's a lot more to it that we'll get into. But listen, I don't want to. We'll close the loop here. Again, a lot of it's hypocrisy, and we talk about hypocrisy and we talk about voting against your best interest. But this is just a prime example of how ridiculous MAGA's hypocrisy has been for years. If you cared about waste, fraud, and abuse, if you gave a fucking shit about it, if you really cared about sending money to foreign countries, then you guys would be the first ones in line, screaming at the top of your fucking lungs, screaming at the top of your lungs. And you're not. And I want to know why. I think I know, but I'd like you to tell me. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Oh, hey. I didn't know it was up there. Sorry, I was typing away.
Right.
Trying to pretend to work at the same time. You know this thing works.
I gotcha.
How you doing?
I'm all right, man. How are you?
Feeling good. I just caught the end of what you're talking about with the Argentina bailout loop, as well as the big beautiful ballroom and arch and so forth, and just wanted to add a few things I heard about on that.
Yeah, go for it. I'm going to give you the keys. I'll be right back.
Awesome. I think the biggest thing, of course, is the Argentina bailout. That's the headline here, giving $20 billion to them. But what I don't know if Steve mentioned it or not, but the Scott Bessent has a friend named what is his name? Like Pete Citrone or something? I don't remember his first name. But anyway, he's a hedge fund manager, runs Citrone Research, and he's heavily invested in Argentina and was poised to lose a whole lot of money if Argentina were to go down the way it is. But not just the corruption is bad, but would probably make MAGA's minds melt is that, used to work for George Soros, but this other guy that runs Citrone Research also used to work for Scott Bessent. Sorry, not Scott Bessent. Used to work for George Soros. So we've got two Soros, the so-called evil man the boogeyman for the Republicans and these two guys are heavily involved. This Argentina thing. This is nuts. Did you catch any of that, Steve?
I did. Yeah. I mean, there's always whether we want to think about it as money laundering, if we want to think about it as market manipulation and money. There's so many things. I mean, we talk about it because most people won't, which is why the advantage of being an independent journalist is we can unpack this kind of shit because I'm not a slave to any corporate entity. But we don't know the truth behind anything because they're not willing to be transparent with us. And I think the exercise for all of us in this moment is that we have to demand more transparency from our government. Republican, Democrat, Independent, it doesn't matter. We all have to demand it. And when we talk about normalizing hatred, we have to stop normalizing lack of transparency. We have to stop normalizing corruption. And I think these are examples.
But Kate Caroline says that we're the most transparent government ever.
Oh, I know. Of course. Of course she says that.
The other thing I wanted to mention was about the arch and the ballroom that he wants to build. I'd heard that some of the designs, the renderings for the arch are very reminiscent of the H-Man's Victory Arch that was never built in the 30s.
It's right there.
Germany. Yep, that's it.
It's right there.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, I missed the very beginning, so if you showed that, yeah, that's it.
That's it. Yep.
And what's even worse is to build that, they'd have to tear down the original Social Security Administration building that they had built to honor the New Deal and everything. But that would have to be torn down, would also ruin Lincoln's view from the Lincoln Memorial.
Of course it would.
Who looks upon the cemetery at Arlington, which used to be Robert E. Lee's home.
Yeah, that's right. That's good. That's a good point. That's a good point.
So yeah, there's just so much symbolism in this. It's just awful.
I know.
But Saturday's going to be great. We're gonna no Kings.
I agree. Thanks for jumping in today, bud. Appreciate you.
Talk to you again.
Talk to you later. All right, bye.
See ya.
Yeah, I mean, somebody asked the question, can we tear it down? That's not the point. The fucking point is, what the fuck are we doing? Like that, I mean, how can anybody, and this is where we say, I'm not looking for common ground necessarily, but the people who should be angry the most are the ones that bitched and moaned about wasteful spending. Waste, fraud, and abuse, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I'm going to be out. You're going to see me out. I'm going to try to infiltrate a little bit. I'm going to use my privilege a little bit on Saturday. Making plans literally almost as we speak. All right. We've got a lot to cover, so we'll try to get through as many guests as we can. Good morning. What can I call you? Hello? What can I call you, user? Bunch of numbers. Hello? User, are you there? I guess not. I think there's one more guest in the box. Good morning, Debbie.
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
I just had a quick question. Isn't it illegal to mess with a historic building?
Probably. I think it depends on what the building is and what the conditions are. Like if it's falling apart, what could you do? I would think so, right?
Well, I mean, I know to fix something, but to make extreme changes, like to add a ballroom and all this stuff to a historic building, doesn't that make that illegal?
Does illegality even matter anymore, Debbie?
No, I guess not.
Right? So yeah. I hear you. I hear you, but it doesn't matter. I mean, the ballroom's the least of the things that we have to worry about. I mean, they're violating people's civil rights and constitutional rights every fucking day, right? So they don't give a shit. But it's a fair point. But thanks for asking. I appreciate you. Talk to you later.
All right, have a good day.
You too. Bye. Anyway, so I want to get into a few things that we sort of need to cover. Again, thank you all for being here. Appreciate you guys very, very much. If you haven't yet joined our team, please consider doing so. There is a gifting goal. If you would like to support the channel, best way to do that is through our crowdfunding. All my various appetizers are at Factsstillmatter. As a reminder, there's a whole bunch of brand new merch in the merch store. Thank you, Sam. Hearts in the chat for Sam. She's discovered a new hobby, and there's a whole bunch of brand new merch in the merch store. So go check it out. Any and all proceeds from any item sold in the merch store this week, so starting Monday through tomorrow, will go to the same family that we helped out recently, if they let me. They may say no, and we can talk about that. But anyway, a whole bunch of cool shit. New Facts After Dark merch coming. A lot of the No Kings series of merch is in there. Bunch of shit. So check it out. That's in the Facts HQ or at factsstillmatter.site. So let's, I have a little bit more sound from Bernie that I wanted to play for you guys, because we're talking about things that we can do to try to push back. And I think Bernie's messaging has been really strong on this. Let me just play this for you. And then we're going to get inside the mind of racist MAGA. And it's going to be easy to have that conversation just because of what they tell us and show us every single day. So let me find that first. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Hold on.
Millions of people are going to come out on a No King's Day. Maybe more people coming out than any time in American history. Speaker Johnson said this is a hate America rally because people are coming out expressing their concerns about massive cuts to healthcare and the movement toward authoritarianism. Not a hate America, it's a love America. But the point is, instead of attacking each other in that way, in my view, what we got to do is lay the issues out on the table. We got a healthcare crisis, do we not, friends?
Yeah.
All right. We're the only country not to guarantee healthcare at all. How do we move to a healthcare system that guarantees healthcare to a human right? Make sense to you?
Yeah.
All right. 70, 80 years ago in this country, if you went to a public college or university, you know what your tuition was? Zero. And yet you got all of this increased worker productivity, all of the technology. People can't afford to send their kids to college. They can't afford childcare. People are paying outrageous costs in housing. How do we build the millions of units of affordable low-income housing that we desperately need? How do we save the planet for our kids and transform our energy system away from fossil fuel? Do you know that millions of senior citizens in this country are trying to get by on $15,000 a year or less? They helped build this country. They fought for our country. They're in nursing homes, which are horrible places right now because they're underfunded, understaffed. We are the richest country in the history of the world. How do we provide a good quality life for our kids? Should we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major nation? Highest rate of senior poverty? Those are the issues. You disagree with me? Fine. Got a better idea than mine? Great. Let's go forward. Let's discuss those issues. Let's not attack each other personally, that we're un-American, that we hate America. That's nonsense. That just divides us. Let's come together. Let's discuss the real issues. Let us create the kind of extraordinary country that we know we can create.
Anybody want to disagree with that? What are the underlying themes that we've heard from conservatives for years is the cost of things. And we can all agree. We can all agree. But what you guys don't know is that the deregulation in the banking and the housing industry allowed for large corporations, Blackstone, BlackRock, places like that, to buy up a lot of single-family homes. And what do they do with it? They don't put them back in the market. They'll rent them, which then drives up rent prices everywhere, all across the board, all across the board. We should all be fucking angry about that. Every single one of us. Every single one of us. Developers, some of the largest developers in our country, right? When they buy up land, do you think they're building low-income housing? We just had a situation in Burlington where they're putting a lot of money into the downtown. It needed it. Downtown Burlington, if you've never been, is beautiful. But there's not a lot of options for housing. So they struck a deal with the developer. The developer was going to construct two towers, I think 15 or 18 story, nothing too big, 10 or 15 story, nothing too big. The deal was that half of the apartments built to the building had to fall into a category so they became affordable. Conveniently, the only construction that's been completed so far are the penthouse, for example, costs like $7,000 to rent. and the average price to rent in a building is like $3,200. Nobody can fucking afford that. Nobody can afford that. And then coincidentally, they don't have enough money to complete the other project, which would have the low-income housing in it or the affordable housing in it. This is what we're talking about when we talk about what deregulation does. And who takes advantage of deregulation? It's conservative politics, because they tell their vote, well, Trump took all that. You don't even know what deregulation is. Do you understand that the Bush era, piggybacking off of Reaganomics, deregulated the banking industry, the auto industry, the housing industry, which led to the fucking crash? You understand that? This is what's going to happen again. The reason that we don't have affordable housing in our country, first of all, is we don't demand it, for one. And because there's this monopoly. Just like the whole Acre Trader. I think it's called Acre Trader. J.D. Vance has got partnerships in Acre Trader. So you could make the claim, you could make the argument that this political environment and this economic agenda under the Trump administration, by design, is bankrupting farms. You could make that argument. This is my own opinion, my opinion alone. You could make the argument that this is by design, wanting small farms to go out of business so they can be purchased by larger farms. Oh, and by the way, the Vice President of the United States has a stake in companies that would do that. That is just diabolical. And that goes right to the core voter, rural voters, getting ripped off. And yet you voted for it again. What the fuck? You have to... What Bernie said is absolutely true. There's an opportunity to find some common ground on the basic elements of society. My concern with that, he's right at 100,000 feet. My concern in that is that people are fueled by hatred. Again, the scenario, I think I mentioned this earlier. You've got an undocumented immigrant busting their ass, trying to feed their family. A job that even the most alpha man would be so they'd be tired after 20 minutes. They're out in the fields, 12 hours a day, picking strawberries, picking blueberries, working in hospitality services or construction. They leave one job and go to another to feed their family. On the way, they get in a car accident and they need to be treated under EMTALA. And you people are so fucking angry about that, so angry that you will support an economic agenda that's going to cripple your own family out of healthcare, the cost of goods, inflation, you can't afford houses, and the administration that you voted for is doing that intentionally. They are doing it to you so that they can fund tax cuts for the richest people in our country that are ripping you off every fucking day. Make it make sense. Make that make sense. Have you ever thought about it that way? Our legacy media won't describe it to you that way. That's why I do it. Do you understand what is happening? Are you aware of that? You don't pay enough attention because your racism shines through. You don't pay enough attention because your bigotry and your misogyny and your hatred for marginalized communities come shining through, and you fucking cheer it on. And here we are. The overwhelming majority of Americans that believe the shit that we're talking about how housing is too expensive. Everybody agree? Put a 1 in the chat. Housing's too expensive. Rent, mortgages, property values, too expensive, right? Of course. We all know that. Healthcare system, fucking broken. The rich getting richer on our backs. This is across the board. Democrat, Republican, doesn't fucking matter. It's the system. What conservative politics wants their voters, especially MAGA, to do is ignore all that shit, because they're the ones that are ultimately responsible for doing it. It's their tax policy. It's their rhetoric. It's their bullshit. It's their deregulation. It's their propping up billionaires time and time and time and time again. I'll say this about the two-party system. It's very clear. Republicans pander to corporations and the rich, and Democrats don't do enough to help the middle class. That's the system that we're in right now. Democrats certainly do a hell of a lot more than Republicans do in the middle class, but they don't do enough. They don't do enough. Case in point, Graham Plattner, who I'm going to try to get on the show, he's running for Senate in Maine. He is a bona fide progressive. Calling this shit out, calling balls and strikes. A bona fide progressive. He's an oyster farmer. He's a burly dude, lives down East Maine. He's in the fishing industry in Maine. The oyster industry in Maine is surrounded by conservatives, surrounded by MAGA. He's running against Susan Collins, okay? He's running against Susan Collins, who needs to be out of fucking office. Janet Mills, who's a governor of Maine, who stood up to Donald Trump, which is great that she did that. You remember that famous, we'll see you in court, that whole kind of thing over fucking bullshit about trans athletes in sports. It's a fucking stupid fucking shit that appeals to the bigots in their party. She recently declared her candidacy. And what did status quo Democrats do? Immediately jump towards her. Why? Because it's safe. Fuck that. So Mainers, okay? Mainers. You might see me at some point over the next few weeks as I'm going to try to infiltrate some non-voting populations and or right-wing spaces. Demand better. You want change? Get Susan Collins out of office. Now, Janet Mills would be a hell of a lot better than Susan Collins, no doubt, but I want progressive change. So if Graham Plattner is your nominee, then fucking overwhelm the ballot boxes, overwhelm election day, and get him elected. Okay? That's an example. Because we can't get the things that we should all be pissed off about, like Bernie's talking about here, unless we start making some structural changes. So my new political identity would be a nihilistic progressive. Burn the status quo bullshit to the fucking ground and rebuild it. Prioritizing the things that should fucking matter. Education, healthcare, court reform, getting money out of politics. Right? So I'm all in status quo Democrats keeping the government shut down. I know that's going to harm people. I get it. I understand, but we have to look at this as harm reduction because more people are going to be impacted if the Republicans get what they want. If they get what they want, more people are going to be harmed than will be harmed during this government shutdown, especially now that we know that a federal judge has stepped in and said, you can't fire these people. You've done it illegally. We'll see what happens. Okay. Let's talk about the Pentagon. Actually, let's talk about Pam for a second. Pam.
When you see...
So we know of the rallies this weekend, right? We know it's supposed to be very well attended. I'm going to give you some background a little bit on what Kash Patel and the Department of Justice have been saying, because I'll think a lot of it is fear-mongering by design. I really think, depending on where you are, obviously, they want to use things to scare people. And that's their goal. And they really think that by and large, most Americans won't bother to show up. And I think sadly that's true. But estimates are that this is supposed to be big. Like this could potentially be the biggest peaceful protest in American history, which is the goal. The entire push behind No Kings through indivisible.org is to be peaceful. That's the entire mantra. That's it. Bring your fucking signs, bring your flags, be peaceful. But this is the new pitch that they're saying now. And you listen for the consistencies here. Okay? This is a fucking bizarre
When you see
rant.
these violent incidents and then you see people holding this gorgeous sign with beautiful wood, beautiful cardboard, wood.
Hey now.
Everything's perfect paint job. And they're all the same. There are thousands of them. You know that they weren't made in the basement out of love. They were made by anarchists. And in some cases, wealthy. I'll probably find some of my nice friends that are up there being so nice to me, especially lately. They're being very nice.
What?
But it surprises you who they may be. And you almost wonder why would they do it? But they're hurting our country and we're really taking...
Who the fuck are they hurting? So my point on that was the signs thing, right? So they're now using that. What they're trying to say is if people have signs that look similar, it is coordinated. That's called capitalism. There's signs available on Amazon that you can buy or on Etsy or whatever else, right? But that's their argument now. They want to say because people will have similar signs, that's an indication that it's being funded by Antifa. So this is Pam Bondi on the same topic. Pam looks like she's aged about 35 years just in 6 months.
Sure, and that's one of the things about Antifa. You've heard President Trump say multiple times they are organized, they are a criminal organization, and they're very organized. You're seeing people out there with thousands of signs that all match, pre-bought, pre-put together. They're organized and someone is funding it. We're going to get to the funding of Antifa. We're going to get to the root of Antifa. And we are going to find and charge all of those people who are causing this chaos in Portland and all these other cities across our country. Talk to all the influencers who have been threatened and beat up and their lives threatened from Antifa members. It's going to stop under Donald Trump. Well, sure.
What? Friends, listen. I just need to tell you, if you guys are making the same signs, I know that you probably flipped ahead to page 4 in the Antifa handbook, but my suggestion is, now that we know that they're on the lookout for the same signs, I'd say make more of them. I have one. It's back there. It says, "Resistance is not futile." That's my sign that I go with to the protests that I go to. But again, now we have to worry about signs. And the sign said, "Long hair freaky people need not apply." So I tucked my hair up under my hat. And I said, went and asked him why. You said, you look like a fine, upstanding young man. Perhaps you'll do that. I took off my hat. Imagine that, me working for you. There you go. Okay? So can we just mock that for a second? Can we just laugh about that for a moment? Because joy is resistance. Can we call it what it is about how fucking pitiful they are? That they're not worried about signs? Signs everywhere. There's signs. Exactly. Okay. But thank you, Pam, for sharing that with us. I appreciate your concern. Okay. Where do I want to go with this one? All right. This is again, the topic today is normalizing hate. And I am going to get into the voting rights. I'm going to give, the irony, it's not ironic. It's the history of our country is constant attempts to correct the wrongs. And we're going to go through the history of the Emancipation Proclamation, which led to the 13th Amendment, which led to the 14th Amendment, which led to the 15th Amendment, which led to the Voting Rights Act, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And even that wasn't enough to protect the voices of marginalized communities, in particular Black communities in our country. And now, because fucking aggrieved-ass, weak-ass white people in Louisiana, they feel like they've been discriminated against. Okay, we'll get into that in just a minute. So this is new. I haven't heard this one before, but this is the president discussing plans for future cities.
We're just at the start. We're going to go into other cities that we're not talking about purposely. We're getting ready to go in. And when they go in, like Cash, as an example, told me that people didn't even know. 5 months ago, they went into Chicago, and they started doing a lot of work in Chicago. And we brought the numbers down a little bit. And but that really was just preparatory work for what we're going to do with the surge. We're going to have a surge of strong, good people, patriots, and they're going to go in. They straighten it all out. So we're just at the start. We're going to.
What? What? President of the United States telling you, American citizens, that you're next? Isn't it interesting that the alpha conservative right calls leftists and liberal cities and Democratic run cities just weak and betas and not tough, but yet you got to invade there because of who are you afraid of? You afraid of the blue hair? You afraid of people who defend human rights? Stop normalizing the hatred. It's not acceptable under any conditions. And the president of the United States now boasting, literally, that we're just going to go in and we're going to use cities that we've already gone into as test drives. Who the fuck's going to stand up to it? The courts are. Governors are. Yeah, you're right. It's your rainbow hair creeper. You're right. Governors are. Where are the freedom fighters in America? Where are the 2A enthusiasts? Where are the libertarians that always talk about it in terms of the tyrannical government? Is this not tyrannical? Is this not tyrannical? I have a feeling the military will stand up to it too, to be honest. I really do. Because, you know, even though we do run into oath-breaking traitors here often, but I think the bulk of the people who took the oath defend the oath. We'll see. I guess we'll find out. This is an interesting exchange with Kash Patel. Kash is not looking so good, by the way. And I think it's important to note that we have not heard much since the assassination of CK, have we? In fact, we've heard nothing for a while. In fact, we haven't even heard anything about the person who allegedly took a shot at the president last summer. Have we heard much about him? No, we have not. So this is questions about the conspiracy theories connected to CK.
So many conspiracy theories swirling around about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Do you have any updates for us, especially in light of all the online content that everyone's been talking about?
The only thing we deal with at the FBI and the Department of Justice is facts, and we deliver.
I'm sorry. What was that? Kash just said the only thing that we deal with at the Department of Justice is facts. Okay.
In record speed, a manhunt to capture Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin in 33 hours. And if you put that in perspective to Luigi Mangione or the Boston bomber, they took them 5 days and a police officer lost their life in their manhunt. We are running out absolutely every single lead. And the best thing we can do to honor my friend Charlie Kirk's life is to make sure that everyone involved is prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And that's what we're focused on, investigating the facts, not trading in conspiracy theories.
Okay.
There's been
Kash, my guy, you didn't catch him. His family turned him in. And you know, well, I think he ultimately turned himself in, but he confessed to his family. You didn't do shit. In fact, all you did, Kash, was spread lies twice that you had to recant both times, right? And if you watch the video, he's like standing there next to Trump and he's like rocking back and forth. Am I doing good, Daddy? Am I doing good? Okay. It's crazy. Once again, stop normalizing the hate. The lies that they have told. Have you noticed? If you noticed, because their initial claims was that this was the T-slur, like people like Nancy Mace used, right? We know more about the case around that case than they do because we investigated it. They've not said a fucking word, have they? They have not said a word. Why is that? Instead, they give the Medal of Freedom to Charlie Kirk posthumously. Racist bigot, Christian nationalist Charlie Kirk gets the Medal of Freedom. And then we find the young Republican text threads that were unearthed by Politico sharing the exact same sentiment that Charlie Kirk said. And we can call that bad, but I wonder where they got it from. Crazy, right? Yeah. This is MAGA. Okay, we're going to get into the voting rights piece in a second, but we talk about the violence. We know that the overwhelming majority of political violence comes from the right. It's been studied. We're going to get into this and how it relates into the voting rights decision because it's all related, in my opinion. That's why I'm going to try to connect the dots for you. So thank you if you guys are enjoying the show today. Don't forget there's a gifting goal. If you've not yet joined our team, please do so. Head on over to factsstillmatter.site or the Facts HQ. You'll find the link in the link tree in my bio and get some merch because there's a lot of really good shit out there. Thank you again, Sam, for doing that. And if you want to support the channel, best way to do that, we are crowdfunded. All the various appetizers are at Factsstillmatter. Let me just check in on that for a second. If you want me to read something, I will. Jody says, oh man, Steve, I'm so sorry and embarrassed. I should have used quotations around the word loan. It's okay. I got you. No problem, Jody. I know what you meant. Happy Wednesday, Steve from Savage. Thank you. Appreciate you. Heather says, thanks for all you do. I wish we could make you head of the DNC. Thank you for saying that, Heather. I appreciate that. I wouldn't want to be the head of the DNC. I'd rather be the communication director and fucking tell them what to do and get the fuck out of my way and let me do it. That's what I'd like to do. But thank you for saying that. Joy, it looks like your attempt for something is up with Cash App, you guys. So if you only have Cash App, thank you for your generosity and your kindness. Seems like something is up with Cash App. For some reason, some donations are getting through, some aren't. So if you want to support the channel, PayPal or Venmo. So thank you very much. Appreciate you guys. Gretchen Whitmer, who's been a target of a lot of MAGA hate, right-wing violence, kidnapping attempt. She shared a voicemail, okay, that was left on her voicemail. So you'll hear Gretchen Whitmer talk first, and then you'll hear MAGA, the party of peace and love.
Hey, so I just wanted to share a voicemail that was left with my office yesterday after I posted my video about the bill I'm introducing next week. Viewer discretion advised.
I won't leave my name or number because I'm in fear of Lori. I'm afraid of her because I think she's evil and she's mentally not fit to be in Congress. If President Trump wants the National Guard deployed because Gretchen Whitmer is a communist and hates America, it's damn well they're going to be out. You tell this little ignorant ass that we'll vote her ugly fuck right out and all her fake nails and everything. Wow. I'm sick and tired of you people committing hate crimes against us. You Democrats are evil. Go crawl up Satan's anus where you came out of because you're going to live an eternal life in hell. Why do you hate us? You hate God. You hate America. I pray that God protects us against you. You are ugly from the inside out, and you're evil. You're full of hate. Why didn't you leave us alone, you ignorant bitch? Get the fuck out of our country, you traitor. Go to hell. You're not going to get your legislation passed. We're going to vote you out. No.
Michigan Governor, that was just posted 18 hours ago. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer has signed several new bills into law, including a budget bill addressing road funding and taxes, measures protecting homeowners and Medicaid, and legislation affecting education. Signed the bill in early October, the new $81 billion budget was a bipartisan compromise with several key features. The tax cuts, the budget eliminates state taxes on tips, overtime, and Social Security for 3 years, with the changes taking effect in January 1st of 2026. The budget includes a long-term plan to invest nearly $2 billion annually for state and local road repairs, a key campaign promise from Whitmer. It redirects all gas tax revenue to roads and includes revenue from a new 24% wholesale tax on 420. Record per pupil funding in education was included, along with funding for school safety measures, special education, career and technical education, and universal free meals for all K through 12 students. That must be what she's so angry about. The Christian feeding kids. That must be what it is. Medicaid. The budget secures federal funding for Medicaid by implementing a new insurer tax to replace a previous one that was being phased out. This is intended to protect healthcare access for millions of Michiganders. Protection for homeowners, HB 4524. This bipartisan bill, signed on September 30th, protects property rights by clarifying rules regarding land and home ownership. Wow. Rental protections, these bills signed on January 2nd of this year, prohibit landlords with 5 or more rental units from discriminating against tenants based on their source of income, including housing assistance programs like Section 8. And the caller was angry about all that. Angry.
That's about what you've done to us, you stupid fool. And go ahead, mock me all you want.
Well, ma'am.
I'm only recording this and screaming in it. I know I sound like a lunatic. I'm a Democrat. That's what the Democrats sound like. You guys go ahead and do all your crappy shit against us and think we're just going to lay down and take it. Well, we know you're not going to be able to cheat on the votes like you have been since 2020. And Gretchen Whitmer is just a piece of shit. She's lying. She's evil. Every Democrat is going to rot in hell. I guarantee you that. And you are a real ignorant girl. That's what you are, a girl. And you guys can talk bad about us, about our president that we love, Trump 2028, baby. and you can start packing your bags, little witch.
She's angry about what I just read to you. She's angry about a bill that protects rental prices so that landlords can't gouge consumers or discriminate against people who are of low income, protection for homeowners, Medicaid protection to ensure that people don't lose their coverage in the state, education funding per pupil investment, also to ensure that kids can eat at schools, investing in their roads, tax cuts that benefit the middle class. That's what she's angry about. Stop normalizing hate. That's what she's angry about. Okay. That's fine. No problem. Nothing to see here. All right, let's talk about the situation with the Pentagon's new rules regarding press coverage. This one to me is the least surprising of them all. The assaults on the press, because that is a foundational fascist fucking weapon tool in their playbook. We are not going to allow access. We're not going to give the press access. And when we give the press access, those that disagree with us, we will call fake. We will then challenge their credentials so that the only information that gets reported will be exactly what we want. That's not transparency. If you're the most transparent administration, then you should want to be extending press credentials to everyone, myself included. I highly doubt I'm going to get my wish, but different day. So the story is, I'll just play, this is the story, okay? Pentagon tried to force journalists to sign a policy stating they would only publish approved information. Last month, Hegseth Department of Defense, I'm not going to call it Department of War, sent news organizations a new press policy mandating that all information must be approved for public release by an appropriate authorizing official before it is released, even if it's unclassified. It stipulated that journalists had until 5 p.m. on Tuesday to sign the pledge and agree to the department's terms or risk losing access. Unsurprisingly, most news organizations spoke out against it. Even Hegseth's former employer, Fox News, joined other traditionally conservative outlets like Newsmax and the Washington Post and refused to sign the new policy. Only OAN, One American News, signed on. Many outlets cited First Amendment concerns and statements that decried the policy. The Pentagon Press Association strongly rebuked the move, saying in a statement that it, quote, designed to stifle a free press and potentially expose us to prosecution for simply doing our jobs. Journalists have warned that if the Pentagon approves all published information, the U.S. military could operate without guardrails or transparency. Hegseth, however, appears undeterred by the onslaught of pushback. He posted a press credentialing for dummies on X and has even been quote tweeting news outlets saying they won't comply with a goodbye wave emoji. Outlets that chose not to comply have 24 hours in the signing deadline to turn in their Pentagon press credentials. And that happened yesterday. People walked out, turned in their press credentials, and walked out. By design. Brett Baer, who of all the people on Fox News is probably the most well-accredited journalist. I give Brett Baer some cred because he's actually called out the president. I'm not going to say I like him, but he's probably the most honest that they have over there. And this is his response. Here you go.
I covered the Pentagon for 6.5 years. I covered the White House for 4 years. I covered the Pentagon when you were there.
Yeah, right.
And we knew you don't walk into the tank. And the classified areas are off limits. We obviously were always trying to get the story from different elements, and there was a freedom, but everybody had badges with them. At the White House, I never walked into the Oval Office or the Situation Room. These are stipulations that essentially are changing the dynamic about how to get information.
Exactly.
And how they disseminate information.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like the whole story is being told to our viewers here. What they're really doing, they want to spoon feed information to the journalists, and that will be their story. That's not journalism.
Correct.
Journalism is going out and finding the story and getting all the facts to support it. And no one's going to walk in and bang on the door of a four-star general or senior civilian policy leader in the Pentagon. I never had that, but I did have journalists chasing a story of something that was going on in the Army, and those things were legitimate. And if anything, what would frustrate us in times is we didn't beat you to it. And something bad is happening, and we're getting our act together to do it. And sometimes, well, let's wait a couple of days before we talk about that, and you guys are on it. And that's journalism.
And we know the stipulations about classified information, and if there are leaks or there are situations, there are investigations many times that lead to that. But in the day-to-day, for military families, for military, us being in the Pentagon is usually an asset.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have never, ever seen it. I mean, when I was a four-star general, I insisted that all our new brigadier generals get a class a few days on what the role of the media is in an American democracy. These are often new generals. And then I wanted them to practice and get interviews and how to deal with the realities of this, because they have all these incredible warfighting skill sets, but dealing with the media isn't one of them. And so the education of them was very important to me, so they would welcome and don't see the media as something to be intimidated by. See the media as your conduit to the American people. And that's how I always saw it and believed in supporting it. There were times when stories were done that make me flinch a little bit. Yeah. Sure. But that's usually because we had done something that wasn't as good as we should have done it.
Well, we're all standing in solidarity, almost all of us, and we hope that changes. We'll see where this policy goes. I covered the...
I love the way in which they reported on that, and it's the funny thing about it. It's not funny, haha, funny, but the funny thing about it is the leaks that came from the Pentagon. They came from you, Pete. You and your Signal chat. That's where the leaks came from. So this is the list of organizations that rejected. ABC, Air and Space Forces Magazine, Al Jazeera, Al Monitor, Aviation Week, Axios, Bloomberg, Breaking, Defense, C401SR Net, CBS News, CNN, Defense Daily, Defense News, Defense One, Federal Times, Fox, HuffPost, Military Times, MSNBC, Newsmax, NBC, NPR, PBS NewsHour, Politico, Real Clear Politics, Reuters, Task and Purpose, USNI News, WTOP, The Associated Press, The Atlantic, Daily Caller, The Economist, The Financial Times, The Guardian, The Hill, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Examiner, Washington Post, Washington Times, and One American News. And here's sound from Pete Hegseth attempting to justify this. Oh, wait, One American News is the only news organization that decided that it was going to stay on board so that they can dominate the airwaves, and Pete will be psyched to have them, I'm sure.
To go along on the historic trip of Middle East peace, which our generation of veterans never dreamed would be possible. So you would think that the Pentagon press corps of all press corps would be front and center across the board on wanting to give credit to the president for forging this kind of peace, and instead what they want to talk about is a policy about them, which simply says maybe the policy should look like the White House or other military installations where you have to wear a badge that identifies that you're press, or you can't just roam anywhere you want. It used to be, Mr. President, the press could go anywhere, pretty much anywhere in the Pentagon.
Not true.
We had a chance to go.
Not fucking true. You just heard Brett Baer, who was credentialed to be in the Pentagon for 6 years, say we couldn't go in there. We couldn't walk in this room. We couldn't go into a tank. We couldn't walk into the sit room. We couldn't walk into these offices. And a four-star general said the same thing. And we're supposed to believe fucking, white Christian nationalists, Pete Kegsbreath? The fucking gaslighting is astounding. This is bad. That shit is bad. I believe in the integrity of journalism. And that list that I gave you, those news organizations comprise some of the best journalists we have. Okay? I don't I don't prescribe. You guys know how I feel about mainstream legacy media. Can't stand it. I don't like the packaging. I don't watch CNN. I can't stand it. I don't have cable. I'll watch some clips on news, but I read. I respect journalism. I respect the industry of journalism. I trust the AP. I trust ABC. I trust CBS. I trust organizations like Al Jazeera. I want to recommend to you, I'm not sponsored by them in any way. I would recommend to you, like Straight Arrow News is called SAN, or Ground News. I'm not sponsored by either one of them. I like them because they report on the facts. We've discussed this before, right? We all walk around with bias. There's nothing wrong with bias. What you're looking for is the bias on the editorial side, but not on the news side. You can be biased all you want to be editorialized. That's the whole point of an editorial. But the news, and the way Ground News does it, is they break down who's covering the story. It's really, really cool. Yeah, you don't like Al Jazeera because you don't read the news. So this makes me angry. This makes me angry for somebody who is I've been considered an independent journalist, and I look at myself that way as well. And in fact, I've worked in that profession. This is gut wrenching. We have to rely on the press. We have to rely on the media. The fake media has been organizations like Newsmax, like Fox, and even they signed on to say this is bullshit. We're not doing this. That should tell you a lot, but it's not good. Okay. Let me see this. More news on the shutdown. I don't expect things to change. But I do want to talk about, this is from Ken Klippenstein. You should follow Ken Klippenstein on Substack. He's great. He's been around, speaking of good journalists, he's been around the pipe for a long time. And what the feds are trying to, and I'm going to say this as a cautionary tale. I'm only going to read it to you. Okay. I don't want this in any way be an endorsement against or an endorsement for your attendance in the music festivals this weekend. I'm only reporting on what we know. So the feds think that protests are hiding terrorism. No Kings protests eyed amid domestic terror panic. The FBI and DHS are warning police across the country that protests against ICE or the Trump administration policies are cover for terrorism to occur, according to a restricted circulation intelligence bulletin that was leaked. The bulletin is the latest sign that Trump's national security directive ordering federal agencies to root out domestic terrorism will ramp up surveillance and monitoring of protesters and of free speech. Republican Party leaders are joining the panic over so-called domestic terrorism, with two top officials this week likening the upcoming No Kings anti-Trump protests to terrorism. Quote, this is Mike Johnson. They have a Hate America rally that's scheduled for October the 18th on the National Mall, said Speaker Johnson. It's the pro-H wing and Antifa people. It's a flat out fucking lie. People who are opposed to fascism are ideologically driven. I mean, I left the meeting last night. I forgot to bring my brownies. Shit. Whatever. We talked about it as we stood in our circle and sang Kumbaya and painted each other's fingernails and gave each other back rubs and drank tea. We thought about how we would approach this peaceful protest this weekend by design, expressing our constitutional rights and standing up for our country that we love more than they do. So there's that. Majority Whip Tom Emmer, House Republicans' third highest ranking leader, also called the upcoming No Kings protest a Hate America rally, attributing it to the terrorist wing of the Democratic Party. Now, this messaging is intentional. Like I've said before, because conservatives have less formal education, I'll call it what it is, so they have no ability to critically think. So they'll listen to this rhetoric. They've been primed for years to believe that people standing in opposition to the administration are terrorists, and they forget about January 6th. So I'll be there. I'll be out there. I will be out there expressing myself, using my privilege. And I've said this before, white men, people who look like me, okay? My expectation, in fact, my demand, I'm not even asking, I'm telling. If you're going this weekend, I expect you to put yourself between harm and marginalized communities. I do not, it's not a request, it's a demand. I expect you to be standing shoulder to shoulder with people who are always under threat, even on the best days in our country. I demand it. I expect you to be out there in the breach, standing as an accomplice in the fight, but putting yourself between harm and people who our administration despises on the daily. That is my expectation. And I would like a report back on Monday after you do it. These comments appear to be the first where congressional leaders have adopted the Trump administration framing of protesters as linked to terrorism. Homeland Sec Kristi Noem said that Antifa, which has been designated a domestic terrorism organization, is just as dangerous as ISIS. People like that voter in Michigan who called and left a message on Gretchen Whitmer's voicemail. That's what she believes. That's what she believes. That's obviously what she believes. That's what she's been conditioned to think. That's how she's been primed. That's why it's dangerous. The No Kings protest originated as a response to Trump's military parade this summer, which also coincided with the president's birthday. Drawing hundreds of thousands of protesters across the country, the demonstrations were about as mainstream as you could imagine, enjoying the support of prominent liberal groups like Indivisible, Move On, Public Citizen, and others. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise echoed his colleagues' rhetoric, deeming the upcoming No Kings event as a Hate America rally. Why would people go in the streets? Why would people who are witnessing what they're witnessing, National Guard, ICE agents, violating people's rights, beating up U.S. citizens, handcuffing kids, knocking journalists to the ground, why would people go in the streets if they hated America? Proving once again that radical leftists who want education reform, who want all the things that we talk about every single day, we are the ones that are defending what our country is capable of. Conservatives, especially white conservative men who are the biggest fucking cowards I've ever seen, the most mediocre people I have ever seen, are claiming that we're the ones that hate America? Okay. Just weeks ago, this kind of talk was largely confined to the more flamboyant administration figures like White House Senior Director of Counterterrorism, Sebastian Gorka, who's a, by the way, if I could pick anybody on planet Earth to debate one-on-one across the table, it would be Sebastian Gorka. Because that piece of shit is a pathetic human being. And I would sit in a room and I would just mock him. And I would get under his skin and I would mock him. And I would embarrass him for the fucking pathetic coward that he is. So if anybody knows Sebastian Gorka or knows how I can get in touch with him, please let me know. Who months ago suggested the political opposition might be providing, quote, material support for terrorism. Okay. The leaked intelligence bulletin, again, another leak from DHS. The leaked intelligence bulletin dated October 1st is titled Domestic Violent Extremists Pose Increased Threat of Violence to ICE Facilities and Personnel. It is intended for consumption by law enforcement across the country, employing the FBI's euphemism for domestic terrorists, quote, domestic violent extremists, or DVEs. The bulletin suggests that those who are or might attack ICE and other federal facilities are lurking behind anti-ICE demonstrations. This is fucking propaganda. Full on North Korea style propaganda. Attacks in the past, the bulletin says, advantage of First Amendment protected activity. Protests took advantage of First Amendment protected activity. The First Amendment protects your right to protest. Conveying the narrative that protests themselves demand monitoring and are part of some, quote, extremist conspiracy, end quote. What? 2 attacks at ICE facilities in Texas in July and September, which resulted in 4 casualties, underscored the elevated threat environment for immigration enforcement services operating in the United States, the intelligence bulletin said. Quote, since June 2025, DVEs, domestic violent extremists, in at least 3 states have conducted 2 targeted pre-planned violent attacks against ICE personnel and facilities and additional unplanned reactive violent attacks that took advantage of First Amendment protected activity. I'm sorry. Are cowardice ICE agents who may not even be ICE agents, who may not be law enforcement at all, who could just be cosplay fucking traitors, are they getting attacked? Tough fucking shit. You want to violate people's rights? You want to separate kids from their families? You want to zip tie children? You want to push journalists to the ground and you don't expect a response? January 6ers, exactly. January 6ers getting pardoned? So many of them, by the way, who had criminal records in advance, many of them, and they were released. Guess what they went to? Guess what they did? They went back to criming, including some that, guess what? Abused kids. Quote, none of the 4 casualties the bulletin references, though, were actually ICE personnel. Shocker. In the case of the alleged Dallas ICE shooter, Joshua Yan, the 29-year-old opened fire on an ICE facility, unaliving 2 detainees and wounding a 3rd before taking his own life. FBI investigation into the suspected shooter revealed that he expressed anti-ICE sentiments, the bulletin said. No evidence of that whatsoever. A photograph of a ballpoint pen on a casing? While it's true that bullets recovered from the scene were inscribed with the phrase anti-ICE, photos of which FBI Director Kash Patel was quick to post to social media, leading major media to adopt the narrative that this was anti-ICE terrorism. Jan's former friends told me he was largely a political troll who they thought just wanted to spread chaos. His brother also said that Johns hadn't had strong feelings about ICE nor politics in general, and that he thought the shooting was carried out indiscriminately. All they fucking do is lie, so that they can normalize hatred. The bulletin's second example describes the July attack on the ICE Prairieland Detention Center in Alvarado, Texas. The Justice Department says that a group of assailants dressed in black tactical clothing first used fireworks and graffiti to lure ICE and law enforcement personnel out before opening fire, shooting one officer in the neck. Flyers and spray paint found on the scene saying things like, "Fight ICE terror and resist fascism," do suggest that the attack was politically motivated, but nowhere in the later indictment is there any sign that a protest was involved. Nothing. Even in the indictment that they brought, nothing. Nothing to support their claims publicly. Not a thing. The bulletin closes with a vague reference to DVEs having, quote, leveraged large lawful protests in multiple cities in California and Oregon since June, implying some relationship between the demonstration and domestic terrorism. These individuals have caused damage to ICE facilities in Portland and Eugene, Oregon, and engaged in violent confrontations with law enforcement. The bulletin also says there have no doubt been violent confrontations and instances of vandalism, but terrorism? Really? Okay. There hasn't been a single ICE employee unalive this year, and the officer shot in the neck seems to be the only major injury resulting from political opposition to ICE. The lack of evidence doesn't seem to matter, with moral panic over domestic terrorism in full swing after CK's unaliving. In late September, Attorney General Pam Bondi issued a directive citing Trump's national security directive entitling Ending Political Violence Against ICE. 2 days later, the bulletin I obtained was produced. So, just be prepared what you're potentially walking into. Now, depending on where you are, where you go, threat level is going to be lower or higher. I don't know what to say, but I want to play after you just heard what I read. I want to play some sound from Mike Johnson.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. OMB put out memos saying that they're going to batten down the hatches and ride out the shutdown. But as you pointed out, they're going to pay the troops, as well as they said pay law enforcement. Should law enforcement include Capitol Police, who protect you, your family, Mr. Scalise, the whip, as well as the Capitol building in general?
Yeah, we've always stood with Capitol Police and law enforcement.
I'm sorry, what? What was that? The Republican Party always stood with Capitol Police and law enforcement? Wow.
Enforcement, and we've shown that in word and deed.
Have you? In word and deed? Really? You should check your own bill. The big ugly bill act, Mike, cuts funding for law enforcement. So good try.
And I can tell you that I was with the president for a couple of hours in the Oval Office last night. I spoke with Russ Vought in the Rose Garden before the Charlie Kirk service. They are, what's the right word, forlorn about this. No one on the Republican side is taking any pleasure in this scenario. Yes, we're always for reducing the size and scope of the government and all of that, but this is not the way to go about it. We don't shut the government down, turn off the funding streams, and then require all these cuts like this.
Yeah, that's exactly what you did, you fuck. The Republican Party cares for law enforcement? The Republican Party is pro-crime and pro-criminal, period. The Republican Party is pro-crime and pro-criminal. I'll say it again for MAGA in the back. The Republican Party, MAGA in particular, is pro-crime and pro-criminal. You elected a 34-time convicted felon. Masked up cowards posing as cosplay ICE are violating people's rights every single day. The Republican Party is pro-crime and pro-criminal. We know this because the states that they represent have the highest rates of violent crime. We know this because the Republican Party, under the auto pen of Donald Trump, pardoned 1,600 insurrectionist traitors. Many of them beat up police officers. Many of them tased police officers. Many of them beat police officers over the head with, in many cases, their own batons or flagpoles. I agree, Kipper. Or flagpoles or fire extinguishers. The Republican Party, led by MAGA, is pro-crime and pro-criminal. So, yeah. I don't know who this gentleman is, but the way he's talking about, I found the sound and I can't find out who he is, so I don't know. But I'm going to play it for you because I just think it speaks to everything that we're talking about right now. And there's something else that I want to touch on after he's done. So I don't know who he is. I'm going to play it anyway.
Antifa is heavily embedded in the homeless and housing nonprofit sector. In many cases, the homeless industrial complex.
The homeless industrial complex is funding Antifa?
Is running cover for Antifa. Antifa is benefiting from American tax dollars, and they're essentially being used as the muscle. Let me give you an example.
So the houseless people in America are now being used as the muscle behind Antifa. Okay.
There's a group called Stop the Sweeps in many U.S. cities right now. They get in front of encampment sweeps. What they're doing quietly is they're bringing in Antifa militants to manufacture a crisis to make the police look bad. Another group right now that is behind Antifa and working with Antifa very closely, based on the research that we have right now that we're going to give to you and your team, are the Democratic Socialists of America, also known as DSA. Again, these far left progressive groups tend to be aligning themselves with Antifa.
What? The homeless industrial complex. What? Again, stop normalizing the hate. Government is shut down. The MAGA Republican government shut down, led by Donald Trump, wanting to kick millions of Americans off their health care, deny SNAP benefits, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, so that they can pay for their tax cut. And they are willing to violate people's constitutional rights so people can't call them out on it. They are willing to arrest United States citizens. They are willing to separate families. They are willing to deny the existence of due process. They are willing to zip tie kids because of all this. Oh, and so that Rep. Grijalva doesn't get signed or doesn't get sworn in so that she can be the 218th vote for the Epstein files. Yeah, that tracks. That fucking tracks. A little bit more from the president on this particular topic, and then we're going to get into what I really wanted to talk about today.
Mr. President, Boston had some street takeovers that we saw. Are you going to work with or try and work with the mayor of Boston? And then they have a World Cup. They have several World Cup games. I know Argentina knows about World Cups. They have several World Cup games. Could those games move to cities that do work with you?
We could take them away. I love the people of Boston. I know the games are sold out. But your mayor is not good. They're worse than her. At least she's intelligent. Some are extremely low IQ. Those bother me more. She's intelligent, but she's radical left. And they're taking over parts of Boston. That's a pretty big statement, right? We could get them back in about 2 seconds. All she has to do is call us. We'll go in and take them back. But she's afraid to because she thinks it's bad politically. She can take them back, too. The Boston police are great. I mean, I know them. They love me. She'll never tell them to go after Trump because they love me and I love them. And I got a tremendous police vote and military vote, and fireman vote, all of them. No, I think she is hurting Boston. The answer is yes. If somebody is doing a bad job and if I feel there's unsafe conditions, I would call Johnny, the head of FIFA, who's phenomenal, and I would say, let's move it to another location. And he would do that. He wouldn't love to do it, but he'd do it. Very easily he'd do it. And this is the right time to do it. If I thought Boston was doing something that was going to cause safety conditions for the World Cup, I could say the same thing for the Olympics, because we have events that are in different locations for the Olympics. It's based in LA. If I thought LA was not going to be prepared properly, I would move it to another location if I had to.
Dude, you think you're gonna fuck with Jimmy from Southie, dude? Like, whatever, fucking dude. Your fucking tires are gonna be missing. Your fucking neighbors are gonna be gone. You gonna fuck with Jimmy from fucking Southie, dude? Like, what the fuck, dude? That's not gonna fucking end well for you, dude. Like, whatever. Like, seriously, dude. That's not gonna end well. I just think it's comical at this point to generally think that he has that much fucking power. But this is what you get in fascism when you normalize hatred. I just got a flag for a restriction. So everybody, if you guys could tap like crazy, don't forget there's a gifting goal today. Don't forget about joining our team. I'm going to play the PSA. I'll be right back.
TikTok. It is our intention during these live broadcasts to only provide fact-based information to the absolute best of our ability. We strive to never spread misinformation or to platform those that do. Opinions of our guests or commenters are theirs and theirs alone and do not reflect those of the host. Hate speech is not allowed, and we are diligent about policing it. This platform is for educational purposes only. Schedule pandemonium already in progress.
Hello. Thank you. So I want to get into the what happened at the Supreme Court yesterday. Excuse me, buddy. Over here. Thank you. Good man. So in case you didn't know, some fragile white people in Louisiana decided that they've been discriminated against because of how the congressional districts were drawn in the state of Louisiana. And if you hear some of the summary from the conservative judges on the Supreme Court, it is very, very likely that the Voting Rights Act is going to be gutted. And in America, if you think about it, with the exception of the House of Representatives, because the House of Representatives, based on the population of Black Americans, representation is pretty consistent with the population in the House of Representatives. But nowhere else does it exist anywhere. With the exception, it's over-indexed in our criminal justice system. That's a different conversation. But if you know, you know. Not in corporate America. Nowhere is there equity in our system based on representation based on population. With the exception of the House of Representatives, it's pretty close. What this potentially could do if the Voting Rights Act is then torn up, and I'll get into the history in just a moment, means that the Congressional Black Caucus could potentially lose between 15 and 20 seats. They've been going after the Voting Rights Act forever. So let's go through a history. I kind of researched, I learned a lot myself on this, but let's talk about it. And then we're going to talk about how we as a nation had to continue to correct the wrongs. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 is one of the most important pieces of civil rights legislation in U.S. history, designed to enforce the 15th Amendment because we needed the 13th Amendment because that wasn't enough after the Emancipation Proclamation. We had to sign the 14th Amendment to reinforce the 13th Amendment. Then we had to sign the 15th Amendment to reinforce both of those. And then we needed the Voting Rights Act, proving once again a system built by people who look like me to benefit people who look like me, to protect people who look like me, because everybody before that, bunch of fucking racists. And here we are again. Okay? It was designed to enforce the 15th Amendment's guarantee that no citizen can be denied the right to vote on account of race or color. Here's the concise historical overview. Okay? Post-Civil War foundations. The 15th Amendment, 1870, granted African American men the right to vote. But Southern states quickly developed methods to suppress black voting, including literacy tests, poll taxes, grandfather clauses, and then outright intimidation. Jim Crow, 1877 to the 1960s. Despite constitutional protections, black voter registration in the Deep South plummeted. Federal enforcement was weak, and local officials manipulated laws to disenfranchise black citizens. Then the civil rights movement came about as a result of that. Events like the 1964 Freedom Summer and especially the 1965 Selma to Montgomery marches highlighted systemic violence and discrimination in voting. The attack on marchers in Selma, known as Bloody Sunday, March 7, 1965, galvanized public opinion and President Lyndon B. Johnson's support for strong legislation. The Voting Rights Act of 1965. This is what we're talking about, okay? Signed August 6, 1965 by President Lyndon B. Johnson. Core provisions. Section 2. This is the one that's being debated in the Supreme Court. Nationwide ban on racial discrimination in voting. So, I'm going to sneeze. Sorry, did not. Section 2, nationwide ban on racial discrimination in voting. Section 4B established a formula to identify jurisdictions with histories of discrimination, mostly those in the South. Shocker. Section 5 required those jurisdictions to obtain pre-clearance from the Department of Justice or a federal court before changing any voting laws or procedures. And then federal examiners and observers could be sent to monitor elections where discrimination was suspected. Black voter registration as a result. Black voter registration and participation surged across the South. In Mississippi, for example, black registration rose from about 6% in 1964 to 60% in 1969. Aggrieved white people in Louisiana feel like they're being discriminated against. That's what this is. The case yesterday was brought. The case is Louisiana versus Calais. They consolidated that with Robinson versus Calais. The core question on the re-argument is whether the state's intentional creation of a second minority congressional district violates the 14th or 15th Amendments. The new 2024 map in Louisiana included 2 districts where black voters have a majority or are majority black. This was a remedy after a previous litigation under Section 2 for vote dilution. The plaintiffs, self-described non-African American voters, challenged the map as a racial gerrymander under the Constitution. Meanwhile, black voter groups and civil rights organizations defend the map under the protections of Section 2 of the VRA, arguing that the remedying past vote dilution is necessary and constitutional. Conservative justice, this was from yesterday. Conservative justice has expressed strong skepticism about the continued need for race-based districting remedies. Some asked whether such remedies should be time-limited rather than indefinite. One justice, Brett Kavanaugh, raised the question of whether race-based remedies should have an endpoint. Maybe we should stop having race-based policies end when racism ends. How about that? How about that? This is an example of things we discussed before about how the Voting Rights Act should actually be codified into law. You know, we have it, but it's been now open to interpretation, right? Meaning that it should have been constitutional. Should be no debates about whether it's valid under what particular angle or whatever. But how about this, right? How about we extend the remedies and protections afforded to minorities in our country, marginalized communities in our country, Black Americans in particular? How about we extend those for as long as we have racism? Which means they will be permanent because there will always be racism in our country. Other conservative justices, including Clarence Thomas, last time I checked, a Black man, seemed open to arguments that race should not play a role or that current Section 2 standards are too permissive. Some justices asked hard questions about whether race can ever be used as a, quote, compelling interest for districting, and whether compliance with Section 2 remains a valid justification under the Constitution. Sonia Sotomayor and Leda Kagan pushed back, arguing that vote dilution still exists. Yeah, no shit. And that previous precedent supports the use of race as a remedy when needed to protect the right to vote. There's concern from civil rights advocates that weakening or invalidating Section 2 would result in severe voter disenfranchisement, particularly for Black voters, and could roll back many of the protections gained under earlier Voting Rights Act enforcement. I'm going to take you through a complicated history. Not complicated, but I just want to talk about how we went from emancipation to, I guess you could call it like Reconstruction. All right, here's the timeline. April 12th, 1861. Civil War begins. Confederate forces attack Fort Sumter, South Carolina. Lincoln calls for troops to defend the Union. August 6th, 1861. The First Confiscation Act. Congress authorizes seizure or confiscation of property, including enslaved people, used to support the Confederate war effort, early legal step toward emancipation. July 17th, 1862, Second Confiscation Act. The first one didn't work, so we need to do another one because we couldn't root out all the racists, so we need to do it again. Declares that enslaved people of Confederate officials or supporters, quote, shall be forever free, that set the precedent for a broader emancipation policy. September 22nd, 1862. Preliminary Emancipation Proclamation. Lincoln issues a warning: if rebel states don't rejoin the Union by January 1st, 1863, their enslaved people will be freed. I don't even like that language. Don't even like that language. Anyway, January 1st, 1863, the final Emancipation Proclamation declares enslaved people in Confederate-held territory forever free, allows Black men to enlist in the Union Army and Navy, shifts war's moral purpose to include freedom. July 1863, Black troops in combat. 54th Massachusetts Infantry assault on Fort Wagner becomes a national symbol of Black courage and sacrifice. Roughly 180,000 Black men will serve by 1865. November 19th, 1863, the Gettysburg Address. Lincoln reframes the war as a struggle for a new birth of freedom, reinforcing emancipation as essential to the Union cause. January 31st, 1865. Okay, Emancipation Proclamation intended to free slaves. We needed a constitutional amendment because that didn't go far enough. 13th Amendment passed by Congress abolishes slavery within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Ratification requires approval by 3/4 of the states. April 9th, 1865, Civil War ends at Appomattox. General Lee surrenders to General Grant. The Union victory ensures the Emancipation Proclamation's enforcement across the South. April 14th to the 15th, 1865, the assassination of Lincoln. Lincoln is shot at Ford's Theater. Just days after the war ends, dies the next morning, Vice President Andrew Johnson becomes president. December 6th, 1865, 13th Amendment ratified. Slavery official abolished nationwide. The proclamation's promise now enshrined in the Constitution. 1865 to 1877, Reconstruction. Federal troops occupy the South to enforce new rights. Freedmen's Bureau established to help formerly enslaved people transition to freedom. 1866, Civil Rights Act of 1866. First federal law defining citizenship and guaranteeing equal protection, precursor to the 14th Amendment. So again, Emancipation Proclamation wasn't enough. Civil War ending wasn't enough. Needed the 13th Amendment to say, yeah, we're free people. Okay, we're going to free enslaved people. That wasn't enough either. July 9th, 1868, 14th Amendment ratified. Grants citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the U.S. and guarantees equal protections of the laws. Now, the racist bigots in our country now want to say the 14th Amendment doesn't protect undocumented people because it was written to protect, it was written for slaves. Now, there's truth to that it was authored based on the history, but it applies to everyone. It applies to everyone. The Second Amendment was written when people had muskets. Okay? Let's be really clear about that. You can pick and choose all the fuck you want. You can pick and choose all the fuck you want. But you can't make an argument for one and not the other. Again, let me back up a second. I think I missed one. The Civil Rights Act of 1866, the first federal law defining citizenship and guaranteeing equal protection under the law, which was the precursor to the 14th. 14th Amendment ratified on July 9th, 1868. It grants citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the U.S. and guarantees equal protection of the laws. February 3rd, 1870, 15th Amendment ratified. Prohibits denial of rights to vote based on race, color, or previous conditions of servitude. Again, think about the sequence. Emancipation Proclamation to address people who were enslaved. 13th Amendment, because the Emancipation Proclamation didn't go far enough, because racists were still being racist. 14th Amendment had to then protect the rights granted in the 13th Amendment. 15th Amendment had to double down on top of that. Okay? This is our history. This is the history of racism in our country and white supremacy and discrimination. We had to put multiple amendments in our constitutions and we still didn't get it right. And now aggrieved white people in Louisiana say, you know what? I feel like I'm being racially profiled. 1870 to 1875, the Enforcement Acts and Civil Rights Acts of 1875. Congress passes laws to protect voting and civil rights of freedmen. Early attempts to suppress the KKK and ensure equality. And then 1877, the end of Reconstruction, federal troops withdrawn from the South under the Compromise of 1877 marks the beginning of Jim Crow. And then Jim Crow lasted for another century, which then led to the Voting Rights Act, civil rights unrest, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do you get it? Do people understand that? I'm a history buff. I've learned so much in these spaces from people that I respect. But that's the story. That's the story. That is the story of our history. That's what people don't want taught. And here we are now. We build protections into our system so that people who are marginalized, in particular black people in our country, or descendants of slaves or former slaves, right? We build protections so that they're not continually targeted and then marginalized based on their rights to vote. And that's not enough for aggrieved white people. In fact, that's too far. So the conservatives on the Supreme Court, handpicked through organizations like the Heritage Foundation, right, are now about to overturn the right of citizens in our country to be discriminated against based on their color. That's what's going to happen. The 13th Amendment text says this: neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Section 2, Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. You figured that would be enough. But nope, wasn't. Had to kind of keep piling on, had to keep on adding it, because people in our country did not like the fact that black people had rights, that former slaves have rights. To me, a lot of this, what comes down to, is the recognition by mediocre white people that our population is changing. The demographics in our nation are changing. And this is an example of what they are willing to do to hold on to their seats of power. Holds on to their seat of power. As of July 2023, the U.S. Census Bureau estimates that about 58.4% of the U.S. population are white alone, not Hispanic or Latino. More broadly, on average, there were 195 million non-Hispanic white people in 2023, representing about 58% of the total U.S. population. The non-white minority share has grown, and non-Hispanic whites are declining in share, and in some cases in absolute numbers. Here's the numbers. This is how it breaks down. 1910, 89% of our population was white alone, according to the census. 1950, 88.5% white alone. 1960, 88%. 1970, 87%. 1980, 83%. 1990, 80%. 2000, 75%. 2010, 72%. 2020, 61%. And now they estimate that number's down to 58%. So what does that tell you? Tells me that the racists among us, those people who prescribe to all their bigotry and their hatred, see that. They see that trend. So if you follow the math, estimates are that in 10 years, white alone will no longer be the majority race in our country. I agree. The browner, the better. The share of white people alone has been steadily declining for decades as the U.S. population becomes more racially and ethnically diverse. Immigration, higher growth rates among minority groups, and lower birth rates among white populations contributed to that. So what's the number? So 100 years ago, roughly, 100 years ago, white alone population in America was 90%. Now it's 58%. And it's going to continue to tick down. So when we have the white Christian nationalists, right? And we have the white supremacists, the people who are, not only are they opposed to, protection under the law for marginalized communities, like the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, the Voting Rights Act, et cetera, they want to repeal the 19th Amendment. They don't want women to participate. And I can prove that to you by statements from people like Joel Webbin. Joel Webbin is an unapologetic Christian nationalist. Unapologetic. This is what he has to say about women that don't need rights, as he said, as he puts it. Hang on one second. Let me just do this. Hang on. Stand by. Where's the other one I have? I have this one. I'll find it. Give me a second. Here you go. This is one example. This is Joel. This is okay. MAGA women. Now, this may not apply to you. I understand, but I would just like you to listen to this because this could affect your daughters, and maybe that will be something that you will care about.
Let's say you can wave your Christian nationalist wand. We wake up tomorrow in a Christian nation, a Christian nationalist nation as you're describing, all right? There's a lot of fears that people have. Here's one of them. Will women have the right to vote tomorrow if you wave that magic Christian wand?
No.
Okay, why not? I want to get into why not. Yeah, that's great.
Because if we had a Christian nation tomorrow and women did have the right to vote, we would not have a Christian nation within 50 years.
Okay, elaborate a little bit on that.
Did you catch that? If we I would not. He does not want women to vote because the more women vote in his mind, the less likely we are to have a Christian nation. Thus, the patriarchy is what he's referring to. Okay.
Because the husband has been appointed by God as the head of his home, and no-fault divorce and women's suffrage, more than anything else, ultimately split the household. So we're not talking about women not having a say in society.
Yes, you are.
We're talking about representative government.
That's right.
No, you're not.
Now, there are people in Williamson County, Texas, where I'm a resident, who represent me. No one gets to represent themselves in every single scenario.
Right.
We are all represented by somebody else, whether we like it or not. So why not have women and children represented by a man who loves them, is willing to die for them, protects them, and provides for them? I would love to be represented by just one person in civil government who has that level of commitment to me.
Good.
So it's not about, men get to vote and women don't, and no, it's about the household vote. The individual building block of society, according to the Word of God, is not atomistic individuals. It is the molecule, not the atom, but the molecule of the family.
Yeah.
The family unit should not be separated. What God has joined together, let no man put asunder. I believe that women's suffrage was just one liberal attempt by people who hated Christ to sever the covenant bond between husband and wife. And that's what happened. We would not have one Democrat president. This is a statistic fact. We would not have one Democrat president in the last 50 years if women couldn't vote.
There you go.
I don't want women to vote because I want strong marriages. I want cohesive households. I want representative government all the way down to the family. And I also want babies not murdered. I don't want drag queen story hour. I don't want rainbow jihad. And none of that could happen if women couldn't vote.
Here's a little bit more from it should be repealed from Joel Webbin. Same guy. Here's a little bit more. I'm playing this as disgusting as it is. I want you to hear it because this is part of what we're talking about now. It's not just the discrimination and racism connected to wanting to overturn and repeal the Voting Rights Act. It's all of it. Okay? And that's who is now in charge of our country. These are the people, the young Republicans, the text threads that we just uncovered yesterday. Those people are the next leaders in the Republican Party. If that does not motivate you to vote or to get involved in your community or do something, then I don't know what will. Here he is again.
The amendment should be repealed. I think that because, well, first and foremost, because I'm a Christian, and that is the Christian position. Oh my gosh, you're saying that? Yes, that is the Christian position. I think the 19th Amendment should be repealed. I think that because, well, first and foremost, because I'm a Christian.
So he thinks the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote, the suffragettes, Susan B. Anthony, etc., demanding women, again, women have only had the right to vote in our country for 105 years. His name is Joel Webbin, Webbon. Joel Webbin is a self-professed and proud Christian nationalist. Proud of it. Sing it from the fucking rooftops. So I would like you to be angry by that. We have a lot of women that join us every day. And I know you hear it, and I know that makes you angry, and I'm glad it makes you angry. Because it should. And I'm hoping that anger then leads to you doing something. My expectation for white men is not that they need your protection. They're not asking for it. But you stand in solidarity with it. You stand in solidarity with it. Okay? You get fucking pissed off too. Because this is bullshit. The only representation in the major systems we have in our country that where black people are close to being represented based on their population is currently in the House of Representatives. Now, according to estimates, if the Voting Rights Act is passed, because the Voting Rights Act is gutted by the Supreme Court, the conservative Christian nationalist Supreme Court, by the way, if that is the case, there's predictions that the Congressional Black Caucus will take a massive hit and potentially lose 15 to 20 votes. If that happens, if that in and of itself happens, never mind the gerrymandering that's going on, Republicans will own the House of Representatives for the next 20 years at a minimum. Maybe even more than that. That's what's at stake. That's the kind of stuff that is at stake. The reason that is so relevant is because of Stephen Miller. I firmly believe that Stephen Miller is the person who is pulling the strings in our government. And I want to give you a bit of his history, because the entire push regarding the 14th Amendment, he's the one that's gone public about whether or not the 14th Amendment does provide protections for, undocumented people. He is the one that sort of made that case. So as these conversations about the Voting Rights Act and the Fourth Amendment and birthright citizenship, he's behind it. And we know he's behind it because people take notes. Okay? His ideology, that is, Stephen Miller, is considered extremely far right, anti-immigration, and critics labeled him as aligned with white nationalist and or white supremacy tendencies. He also helped found a legal advocacy organization called America First Legal, which he describes as a conservative counter to civil rights and progressive litigation groups. Okay, so these are some of his controversial things that he's said in the past, and or areas that he poked his talons. Immigration and civil rights concerns. Miller was a chief architect of hardline immigration policies during the Trump administration, the first time. Family separation policy at the U.S.-Mexico border, stricter asylum immigration enforcement. He also alleged to have pushed draconian and or racist immigration policies, for example, shaping the Muslim travel ban, travel restrictions on people from certain majority Muslim countries. Civil rights groups have criticized him strongly. More than 220 civil rights and or civil rights liberties groups have called for his removal, arguing his rhetoric and policies promote discrimination and harm immigrants or minority groups in general. He has been put in extremist hate white nationalist related watch or dossiers by civil rights anti-hate organizations. So this is not new. People who are out there defending civil rights, constitutional rights, have identified him, what is the number? 220 separate times for things that he's done. In his youth, in high school, college, Miller wrote or expressed views against bilingual education, multicultural efforts, or translations from English to Spanish, criticizing them as, quote, crutches, and deeming them demeaning to immigrants. He wrote letters complaining about bilingual announcements or translations of announcements into Spanish, saying it demeaned immigrants as incompetent. Okay. He criticized multiculturalism, and while at college at Duke, he organized against events, movements, for example, protests or conferences on topics he considered problematic. He's been connected or accused of cultivating relationships with known white supremacists or white nationalist thinkers. His organization, America First Legal, has filed lawsuits aimed at election officials, for example, in Arizona counties, challenging election procedures, signature verification, drop boxes, voter registration cancellations, mail-in ballots, etc. Sound familiar? He was sued or pressured by the U.S. Election Assistance Commission to require documentary proof of citizenship on federal voter registration forms, meaning requiring official documents, passports, birth certificates, etc., before registering to vote. Poll taxes. That petition has been controversial. Critics view it as a form of voter suppression because many eligible voters might not have those documents readily available. That's very true. Or it would create additional barriers, especially for communities with fewer resources or people in rural, low-income, or minority communities. The AFL has also sought to remove from voter rolls his America First Legal, his law firm or his agency. AFL has also sought to remove from voter rolls individuals flagged as non-citizens in counties, states, for example, in Arizona, alleged failure of counties to remove non-citizens or not provide proof of citizenship. Okay. Some of the measures or executive orders that he's been part of to require proof of citizenship or restrict registration have been challenged in courts. For instance, a judge blocked key provisions of a presidential executive order that attempted to require documentary proof of citizenship and also restrict ballots arriving after Election Day, or needed proof at public assistance agencies. A federal judge ruled the president lacked authority because election regulations are regulated by Congress and by the states. So that's Stephen Miller. That's on the voting rights side. This is the civil rights side. Civil rights organizations argue that Miller's policies or proposals are designed to disadvantage minority communities, immigrants, lower resource populations, thereby undermining equal access to civil rights, education, multicultural inclusion, immigration rights, etc. Voter rights advocates see the documentary proof of citizenship requirement as a barrier that could disenfranchise millions of eligible people who may not have the documents or have difficulty proving citizenship immediately. That's Stephen Miller. When we look at all these policies and we look at ICE violating people's laws and we look at the statements made by top brass and we listen to statements by people like Tom Homan, I'm going to play this for you now because it's relevant and applies right at the moment. Tom Homan racially profiling people. Who do you think was one of the authors of the immigration plans that we now have? It's Stephen Miller. He's behind most of this. He is running the show. I believe he is the president currently. That's how strongly I feel about it. Because all the policies that are coming from the White House, they align with not only his history, but the things he says on the daily. So Tom Homan, the guy recently who took $50,000 in cash, that nobody wants to figure out what happened to it, where it came from, but I want you to listen to what he had to say. And then we'll talk more about him because he is just carrying out the orders, in my opinion, of Stephen Miller. So here you go.
Racial profiling is not happening at all, and the Supreme Court has agreed with that.
So what is that reasonable suspicion? Is it an accent? Is it a tattoo? Is it a job? Tell us what that means.
A lot of those things combined. We don't arrest people just based on their looks.
We don't arrest people just based on their looks. Interesting. Thanks for telling us right out loud, Tom.
Right, but it's a myriad of factors. It's when people see if they have this MS-13 tattoo on his face, that is one factor. It leads to.
How would you know? Unless they're given due process, Tom. How would you know that?
Reasonable suspicion, but there's other factors too. Before they do these operations, they do surveillance. They run intelligence information. They look at background information. They look at undercover videos and taps. They look at social media reports. They copy license plate numbers of people who are leaving and coming. They build reasonable suspicion. That's what's required by law, and I'm confident the men and women, the Border Patrol and ICE, are establishing.
You build reasonable suspicion? You're supposed to have reasonable suspicion. Okay.
Reasonable suspicion when they detain somebody briefly and question them. And look, the Supreme Court just agreed with us.
Not exactly, Tom. Not exactly. So let's talk about Mr. Homan on profiling, since we just heard that. And the reason I'm sharing this with you today is because we are about what's about to happen in our country. Well, first of all, we got Republicans gerrymandering, violating the law because they don't care, because they can't win. So they're gerrymandering now. Their gerrymandering now is then subjected to the Voting Rights Act to make sure that people who are drawing these maps are not violating the protections that are in the law currently. When that goes away, when that goes away, I'm not going to say if, when that goes away, what do you think is going to happen next? To me, this is about what we just discussed. The census is changing. The demographics of our country are changing in the right direction, in my opinion. In the right direction. I want a fucking matriarchy that is stacked with marginalized communities. That's what I want. That's what I want our country to look like. I want a matriarchy that represents everybody across the fucking board. I don't want white men in power anymore. I'm fucking done. I am fucking done with the bullshit. Where do I fucking sign up for that? So Tom Homan has a very interesting history. And the reason that I share this now is because of what you just heard, because of Stephen Miller pulling the strings, because of what the Supreme Court is about to rule on. We probably won't find their decision until June or July. The term is open, but they hear cases at this time of the year, and then they make their rulings in the summer, June, July. Now, I don't know if that gives states enough time to redraw their maps. I'm sure they'll probably figure that out. That leads us up to the midterms. This is serious. Tom Homan, U.S. immigration enforcement official who has served in senior roles, including border czar. These are some of the things that he has said. Okay. He said immigration agents, ICE officers, and U.S. Border Patrol officers, quote, don't need probable cause to walk up to somebody, briefly detain them, and question them. He's asserting that legal threshold for a temporary encounter is lower than probable cause. That's his assertion. Okay. He also said that agents can rely on location, occupation, their physical appearance, their actions as part of the, quote, totality of the circumstances for such detentions, implying that how someone looks, including their physical appearance, is one factor that would justify questioning them under his view. No. Nope. Later, he said physical description can't be the sole factor to give you reasonable suspicion. So he acknowledged limits, that appearance alone is not enough under the standard of reasonable suspicion. Busted. He also claimed that officers receive repeated Fourth Amendment training, suggesting that they are trained on legal standards for stops and detentions. Okay. He has strongly defended immigration enforcement policies, even when criticized for alleged civil rights violations or profiling concerns, calling critics smears or fake news. He frames criticism as political or media attacks. So when we criticize innocent civilians, United States citizens, for being caught up in the collateral damage, he takes that as fake news. Or how else do they frame it? Media smears. That's how he perceives it. When we see, even if you're undocumented, I don't give a fuck. I really don't care. I care about human beings. When you see people, mothers and fathers being separated from their kids, like just the absolute fucking cruelty, they justify when we criticize it, when we express our voices under our First Amendment protections, the ability to redress our grievances, the ability to peacefully protest and petition our government, when we speak up, exercising our First Amendment freedom of speech, when we speak up in opposition to that, right? He sees that as fake news, media bias. Our elected officials feel like ICE officers are the ones that should be protected, not the citizens. Not the people that are being targeted and profiled, but ICE officers deserve the protection. That is authoritarianism. That is not authoritarianism on the rise. That is full-blown authoritarianism. Full-blown. Critics and advocacy groups view some of his statements, especially about using physical appearance, as an endorsement of racial profiling. Some federal courts have ruled against the use of race or ethnicity or appearance alone as sufficient for stops, especially in non-border or inland areas. And then media accounts note that his statements appear contradictory. On one hand, denying profiling, on the other, acknowledging physical appearance factors as permissible. He said it himself. Oh yeah, we can use physical appearance as an identifier. No, you fucking can't. He's the same guy, by the way, that took $50,000 that MAGA Republicans cannot keep their story straight as to what it is. So there's that. I don't know. Yes, that's correct. Somebody just said that. Who said that? Yes, J Street. It is. That's me. Add Factsstillmatter on all the various things. I should check that. Friend, you're not loading. You can request again. Hang on just a second. I forget to do this. We are crowdfunded here, friends. If you want to support the channel, I'll thank you in advance. Thank you to Crystal. Crystal says you're appreciated. Thank you, Crystal, for saying that. Also, thank you to Patty. Patty says, can't see what you said, Patty. For doing a great job. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate you. We are now down to this number. So thank you. Hi. Hi. Heather.
Hey. Sorry, I was doing the dishes. I completely forgot why I requested up now, because I think we're past whatever subject it was.
That's okay. I appreciate you being here for every day. You good?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Thanks a lot for being here, as always.
All right.
Robin, looks like your attempt to donate via Cash App. Something's up with Cash App. I don't know what's going on there. I might have to reach out to them, but thank you all very much for that. Appreciate you. Okay. Anybody else in the box? I think Debbie's here. I have a few more things that I want to cover off on, but this is just, it's not okay. And it's going to get worse. Hi, Debbie.
Hey, I don't know if you saw my comment or not, but in Everett, Mass, they arrested a 13-year-old. ICE arrested a 13-year-old, took him to Virginia without his mother even knowing. So it's a big thing in Massachusetts right now. The cops in Everett are against it, but ICE took him.
For what? Did they say?
They say he had a weapon, but I guess he's Brazilian.
Why would ICE take him? ICE shouldn't be taking him.
ICE took him.
I know. That's trafficking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me know, Debbie. I appreciate you.
Yep. Okay. Bye.
Bye. I'm not surprised. Should anybody be surprised by that? Anybody? Anybody be surprised by any of it? It's just not fucking okay. It's just not. Sai, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to kind of pick your brain on your thoughts about if it was possible, given that the Supreme Court, they're clearly corrupt. I mean, truly our whole government just seems to be corrupt and not there. The idea of all of America taking care of all Americans is not at the forefront of their mind. So I'm just wondering, is there anything as a community that we can do to maybe sign, like, I know that there's something like it's like the 3/4 thing where like you can force your Senate or your government to basically like push on like a law. I'm just wondering if there's something similar that we could do if we were to push to like all of, I don't know, like we get over 500,000 signatures to say we need to clear out the whole government and vote to put new bodies in. Is that possible, or is that just dreaming?
It's not possible as you described it. What would have to happen? You're talking about a couple different things. You're talking about like a constitutional amendment and or a constitutional convention. We're talking about ratification by states. So to do something like that, if you're talking about removing the president from office, there's a couple ways that can happen. That would be either the 25th Amendment, which would require just a member of the cabinet to say that this person is not fit to serve, or there's impeachment. But neither of those things are likely to happen, especially the impeachment side, because they hold control of both houses of Congress. I think a better thing to think about is what we all can do as a community to support each other. Right now, we all need to, like, empaths got to be empathing. We got to help our neighbors. We got to help our friends. We got to go to community events. We got to prop up marginalized groups. We got to stand in solidarity with people who are going to be subjected to harm every single day. I think that has to be our focus right now.
Okay, yeah, because I just like think about just the Supreme Court, how there's like no term limits, and even like, and that, right? Like, is it possible for us to push and demand that we want term limits? Because there's people that are in the court that are in the cabinet that have been there for years, and truly they don't need to be in there. There's no reason that somebody who's, I'm sorry, you're 70 years old, you are just maybe a little too biased to how the old ways work compared to we need new, fresh minds in there that are they are aware of what we're going through, you know, like it just seems like there's an era of, I don't know what you would call it, they just don't care about like the general pop, and it just, I don't know, I feel like we just need to get term limits, and I want to know if there's a way for us to try to just clear it all out, like start something to just clear everybody.
Vote. Encourage other people around you to vote. If we move the needle from 62 to 63% to like 70% of registered voters to vote, and because we know that the bulk of Americans believe a lot of the things that you believe, then that's how we make those changes. That's how. We're to be honest, we're limited. We are limited. What we're not limited by, though, in what we do in the everyday, how we help our neighbors. Right. How we activate people, how we motivate people, how we have conversations with folks, how we remind people of the things that should be the most important. Because I firmly believe in this organic approach to governing, meaning that the more people are doing things on the daily to help out their communities, the more that turns into voter activism, the more that turns into voter registration, and the more that turns into change. Now, I'm always going to see the glass half full. I'm a positive thinker by nature. So I have to hold on that hope, or what's the point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big pusher of, like, I tell all my friends all the time, I talk to anybody who will talk that's like a MAGA, and I try to just, you know, come to like the human level of it. I'm not trying to hear, oh, Democrat versus Republican. Truly, it's not that anymore. It's clearly the rich versus the poor, and it's the haves versus the have-nots. And I just wish that it was more clear to especially the MAGA, like that you were voting against your own betterment. Like you're voting against yourself. We care about you. It's not lib tears. It's not, oh, like, you know, I hate that. And I mean, I guess I have another question. Like, would it be realistic that we could just remove the Democrat, Independent, Republican, and we could just change it to like